Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sandbox Saturday stream. I am Alex Florez, aka Kamisazi, joined here by the paragon of awesomeness, Joseph the Vision X Matting. How you doing, Joseph?
What's up, Alex? Man, it's been a while. Got another game jam going on today.
Yeah. So, our game jam here, we're talking about the Tiny Quest game jam. This was with the Sandbox's partnership with Netflix and The Little Prince. I believe it's with Netflix, right?
Uh,
I watched The Little Prince on Netflix,
I think
so
it only says the Little
I think
Prince
it's just The Little
in the
Prince.
chat here. But
Mm,
where do you get the Little Prince?
yeah, I watched The Little Prince on Netflix, so maybe it's not with Netflix, but it is with The Little Prince. So this this is a wonderful movie. If you haven't seen it, you should do yourself a favor and check it out. It's is it claymation or is it just like marionette style animation? I don't. It's a unique stop motion style. I don't know that I've seen another stop motion movie quite like it, and it makes you feel things. As a grown up and I would assume as a kid too. I mean, my daughters liked it. Um, it's a good family movie, and it kind of hits you in the feels with like nostalgia and big questions, and it's about life and love and meaning and all those big things. But we're gonna read through the Medium article here in a second. I'm gonna share it to the chat. But I did want to make sure I say hi to everybody. So welcome the Bitfox, J Dog, the Oaks on You, the Kajingaverse, Ian the IT guy, and our viewers over on YouTube and Twitter as well. Journey Junkie. Tune in from Boise, Idaho. All right. Uh, so The Little Prince, we embark on a journey to the stars with the Tiny Quest Game Jam in collaboration with The Little Prince for a celebration of creativity, exploration, and the boundless imagination inspired by Antoine ooh, de Saint Exupéry's Timeless Tale. I'm not sure I'm saying that right. Joe, help me out. On the
Oof,
spot.
oof.
We
See,
had a
because I
whole
saw that
stream.
and I was also like, I don't know. So the original The Little Prince is a paperback that you can pick up. It's been out since the year 2000.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna just have Google try to read that one for me.
So we had a stream a couple weeks ago where I ran the gauntlet of trying to speak French for the Paris. It was one of the entries for the Paris City Jam, and it was uh, we just did it as a mage raid, I think, and I was having to read not just like oui or like little phrases in French that kind of everybody knows, but like there were full sentences in French, and it was rough. I tried to hold
Okay.
my own, but there were definitely times when I was past my limit. Uh, I don't know if anybody got good clips from that stream, but it was I don't know. I was entertained by my own inability to say things. So the story of the Little Prince is both charming and whimsical, and introduces you to a young prince who explores the meaning of love, friendship, and life's wonders. Overflowing with profound lessons and unforgettable characters, this classic story reminds us that it's the time you spent on your rose that makes your rose so important. You become responsible for whatever you've tamed. You're responsible for your rose. We invite you now to this game jam to create, to grow your rose, and to nurture it. We look forward to seeing what wonders you create. So the theme reveal is about a universe of possibilities uh, and adventure. It invites you to craft experiences that capture the essence of discovery, curiosity, and wonder that defines the Little Prince. Imagine a world where every planet holds a mystery, every character has a story, and every moment is an opportunity for adventure. We challenge you to create games that evoke the childlike wonder of the Little Prince, encouraging players to explore, learn, and grow as they navigate through fantastical landscapes and meet unforgettable characters. Uh, some of the encouraged gaming mechanics were resources, collecting and using resources to progress in the game, a crafting system, crafting tools, cooking food, and more, and uh, to engage and motivate players to upgrade their character. Survival stats, including hunger bars, energy bars, thirst, and more to challenge players to stay on their toes. There was not supposed to be any violence, and the little prince cannot die because he's just a little prince.
Yeah, and that's, to be clear, that's only if the character is present as the little prince in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were using your own player character, then that may be possible.
Sure. Yeah. Um, all right. So there's all the information about registration, joining. It's a little late for that now because we're doing the award show right now. Let's talk about the prizes. You stand to chance. Let's start that sentence again. You stand a chance at a share of the 50,000 sand, 20 lands, and exclusive Catalyst prize uh, pool. The first 100 valid entries are rewarded a participation prize of 100 sand each, for a total of up to 10,000 sand. And there's a brand opportunity. The Little Prince would like to welcome you on their land. Taking part in this game jam offers participants the chance to be picked by the IP to be published on the Little Prince's estate. That's in addition to land. So, uh, before, years before, when we do these game jams, Joe and I, the prize was oftentimes land to the winners, with the idea that uh, back then land publishing wasn't available, but the idea was that once land publishing was available, they'd be able to publish the game that they won with on that land if they wanted to. They could publish anything on that land; it's their land. But it's like, great, you got land, you have a game, you've got a way to publish it, and now you're not only getting land, but the opportunity to be on the IP estate, meaning you got a bonus land because you don't have to use your land to be on the IP's estate. That's publishing the game separately, and then you can do whatever you want with that land. So it's pretty cool. First place is 15,000 sand, the 1x1 land, and a gold catalyst pack. Second place is 8,000 sand, a 1x1 land, and a silver catalyst pack. Third place is 5,000 sand, a 1x1 land, and a silver catalyst pack. Fourth place is 3,000 sand, 1x1 land, and silver catalyst pack. And fifth through 10th place get 1,500 sand, a 1x1 land, and a bronze catalyst pack. And the honorable mentions, there are 10 of them this time, 1,000 sand plus a 1x1 land. There's more information usually about what those catalyst packs are. I don't. Oh, here it is. So you can see the breakdown of legendary, epic, rare, uncommon, and common catalysts in those packs. And there's all the other rules and stuff. You can check the link in the chat if you want to see what those all were. But now we're going to be talking about what those games are. So we've got our typical setup here. If this is your first time joining us for a Game Jam Award show, we play a video back of all of the top 10 in a random order. So you won't know who's our fourth place, third place, second place, and first place until the end. And then we show the 10 honorable mentions. And we give, each of those is like a 10, 15-second clip. So we don't really talk too much about the games while that video is running the first time. We mostly just like say the name and who the person is. And then Joe and I might vibe for a little bit, talking about some of the interesting things that we saw across the whole game jam. And then we'll show videos of your fourth place, your third place, and your second place winners, kind of full trailers made by me. And if you are one of those winners and you want to use that video for your experience page, if you publish that game to the map, just ask me. You can make a ticket on the Sandbox Discord or on the Wizzyverse Discord and ask if you can get a hold of the video that I put together for your game. I'm happy to share that with you, so that way you can put it up on your experience page. I would be honored to have it up on your experience page. And then we play the first place winner live here on stream. All right. Journey Junkie has a An interesting question. Can I do something with my stolen land in OpenSea? So I would make a Discord ticket on the Sandbox about that to see what your options are. Uh, we can't really offer any support about compromised wallets or something here on the show. I mean, we've given some tips before on what you can do, but that can be a very specific to your situation kind of issue, and maybe not something you want to talk about in front of a whole audience. So I would recommend making a support ticket on the Sandbox Discord. We have some very helpful staff there, and sometimes they even ping me to go and help there. So we can get you sorted. All right. So let's get this video ready. Do you have anything you want to talk about, Joe, before we get this video going up, or you just want to jump right into it?
Well, I mean, I'm good with jumping into it, but I think it's also important if you are live and you had submitted your game in this game jam and you want to see more deep dive sort of notes during the duration of this showcase. When we get into those individual games, I'm going to try to highlight some of the things, at least that I took down as notes, that could help you as a dev, whether it be if you're trying to go from, your honorable mentions group into the top 10, or go from top 10 into full production game. I've got those notes up and ready, so we'll address those as well during the duration of the show. That's about it.
All right, yeah, that's I forgot that that I'm set up to do that also. So yeah, after we do the top 10 honorable mentions, Joe's just gonna call out whichever thing he wants me to put up on the screen. And I'm just gonna play their full playback video on screen. So we'll break it all down for you. Give you lots of good tips. All right, you ready, Joe? I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, let's fire this up. All right. Little Prince and a Magic Whale by Sanja Studio. Remember, these are our top 10 in a random order. Little Planets by Great Artworks Studio. Once Upon a Chime by Life Made Me. Three Days with the Rose by IZA Voxel Lab. No More Toys by Arcadia X. The Little Story by Siberia Mood. Feel the Love by J-Rung. Little Fish by Entenium. Blooming Rose by Team Zhang Doru. Crafted Realms by Vox Machina Studios. And now for our honorable mentions in the Tiny Quest Game Jam. The Rainbow Maze by Alki Studio. Rose of the Stars by Hajik. A Little Prince's Star Adventure by MH8D. A Journey of Friendship by Sertaj026. Mila, Escape from Tinyland by Jam Game. Momo's Little Prince Rescue by PGV Lab. Frosty Earth 2 by Geizaval. Arcadia Island by Anna and Joyce. The Corrupted Invasion by Mass Pepper. Rose Planet by Kyoy Nguyen. I think Nguyen? I think I said it wrong.
I think it's Nugan. Yeah, maybe what? That depends on how quickly you say it.
Yeah, I think that's Vietnamese, right?
Yeah.
I've never learned how to say it quite right. I have heard it said correctly, so I apologize for botching that. All right. So I just want to say real quick about all these games. Um, I mean, I'm always pleasantly surprised by all the new cool things that people figure out in the game jams. But this game jam in particular, what really impressed me across many of these experiences is how uniquely presented the styles are and the way that they use the VFX and the weather settings to completely change your perspective in the game. We've got people flying through space in little airplanes. We've got uh, being a fish in like a 2D uh, space with little fish there. We've got people running through books, like literal giant storybooks. Uh, this 3 days with the rose, you see the whole planet turn when you jump to the next section. Just really totally changing the way the space can be used. Kind of by default, the way a lot of people use the sandbox and the way I usually use the sandbox is just as like the space that it is, kind of working in it like it's Minecraft and this, just taking it at face value kind of. But I see a lot of really unique presentations that totally morph the way the space is used and the way you transition through scenes in just really impressive ways. So I want to applaud everybody who worked on these games because you did some really cool and unique scene transitions and just some stuff that I've never really seen before. So just some awesome things. Kajinga first says, "Good use of the plane." And yeah, here's a little fish with this 2D side-scrolling kind of arcade style game. We had a blast playing that on stream the other day.
Yeah, that one was a lot of fun for sure.
All right, Joe, you've got you've got some breakdowns for us.
I do have some breakdowns, Alex.
Yeah,
So just going through, do we want to go through the honorable mentions first before we
sure.
get back into the
Yeah,
top 10 groups? Of course.
just
Um,
uh, just shout out the name,
okay.
and I will
So
pull
the
it up.
first one I've got is on my list is Rose of the Stars. It was actually the very first game that I had reviewed on my list. Okay, so I don't know how long, Alex, your video is here. Is this
14
the whole
minutes.
video? Okay, so this is the whole
You can
game
talk about whatever
playthrough.
you want to talk
Very good.
about.
Very good. Okay.
This is the playthrough.
My list of uh when I take these notes, typically I only write about a paragraph or so worth of notes, and they try to be pretty clear and concise, quick touches on things. So if you're a dev and you created this game or any of the other upcoming games and you want to get more details on what you might have been able to change, you can always ask. As Alex mentioned, you can ask us directly. You can tag us on Twitter or you can ask us via the council chat, and we'll try to get the feedback to you at any time. Um, but for Rose of the Stars specifically, one of the things that I wanted to highlight was that it had really cute narrative design. Something that, you know, we were kind of given this, but application of it varied from player to player. So I thought you did really good with this. If you look at the source material that is The Little Prince, you're going to be given this beautiful narrative that you can work with, right? And I think you did a very good job of that. Also noted, as you can see in the video, there's sort of the like almost flower-like teleporter paths that can take you from planet to planet, narratively speaking. That's sort of how it works. But I wrote islands because of the way they're aesthetically made. So you had a good use of the islands and the available land space. You did a good job of making them look unique, and not interfere with each other visually. Um, However, there were some downsides, and they're mostly technical stuff that I think you'll be able to work on long term. One is there is a desert section in your lanes. Among them, one of these planets. You could see it sort of in the background down there. That would spawn these toolboxes, and the toolboxes needed to be dug up to get the tools in the desert. And there were very clear circles on the ground. And when you went to dig them up, the toolboxes didn't spawn for a while. It wasn't very long, but probably 2-3 seconds it took for those toolboxes to spawn. I'm guessing that your logic check for that was something that moved back and forth, like on a timer. Um, if this thing wasn't there, then spawn that. But if you could fix that, then it's going to help me as the player always get the tools when I want to. Now, you really don't even have to have a toolbox pop up to get picked up anymore. You can sort of have that action trigger a counter that you have in the UI, um, and that would have fixed that. Another thing that popped up was the baobab trees, these sort of large, thick trunked trees with the white trunks you see here on the screen. And when the player walks up to those, if you are close on the camera or not, it's going to pull the camera in really tight to the player because the baobab tree had its hitboxes just a bit too big. And the player could walk into that. And I don't know if it's the branches at the top or not. The one fix for this is to turn off the collision on that tree and maybe put like a smaller trunk inside so you could still hit it. Um,
Yeah, I
but
can elaborate on that. So the issue that we have is whenever there's something, and you just saw it in the video now, whenever there's something between the camera and the player, when you've got a free flying camera like this game has, it zooms the camera in so the player is not obscured. So what you can do with something like these trees, if it's a non-animated asset, you can in VoxEdit, you can actually select the nodes of the top parts of the tree and turn off collision from inside VoxEdit before you upload. And that will make it so that way uh, the game maker does not sense a collision there and it just lets the camera float behind it. And I've made that suggestion before for other games, where people have had things like these lamps that you can see on screen, similar assets that make the camera kind of bounce in as you're walking down the street, and it's really distracting. There is planned changes to the way the camera works that we were working towards making it a more enjoyable experience for players when they walk behind something that it doesn't quite do that bounce as hard. So there are plans to make that better, but you won't have that available in this particular game jam. So uh, editing the collision can be helpful there.
Yeah. So anyway, those are really the biggest hiccups that I've found in this. I mean, if you want to get into the minutia, it's art design being a little more diverse on each individual world or island might have been nice, but understanding the time constraints that it is, I would consider that like a after game jam thing to think about. Um, that's pretty much all the notes I had for Rows of Stars. So if we want to move forward to the Escape from Tiny Land, Mila. And this is, as I recall, this is one of the very first submissions that actually got published into the Game Maker in the drafts gallery. So I remembered seeing it early. Actually, they published it before they had any sort of logics built in or anything like that. Um, but really, the biggest shortfall that came up in this, um, the gameplay at the beginning, as you're running through, it's sort of working fine. Everything's happening as expected. You're able to grab some quests and get the game going. But in my particular playthrough, and this is one of the reasons why I encourage people to publish it early and get tests from friends or get tests from peers or tag us and get some tests this way. Um, what happened for me is while we're playing through this game, you have some survival like mechanics that are sort of going on. One of those being hunger, the other being thirst. And you can pick up uh, materials as you're going through the world. There will be some berries over here, or a sandwich, or a bottle of water, or something like that. Um, However, the the player is asked to use those assets manually, sort of in the same way that the Elder Scrolls Skyrim has you do it. Right? You want to open your inventory and you want to eat a cheese wheel or something um, as you're playing through. And in this particular case, when I was playing through, anytime I used any source of water, I ended up only able to refill that water meter by 1% per consumable. And there wasn't enough consumables to offset that. And the amount of time in terms of ticking downwards toward thirst, if you're watching the video here, you can roughly see how fast it takes to go from 80 to 79. And it pretty much took the same amount of time to open my inventory, drink of water, close the inventory, and look at the meter. And you would see that the 1% you added went away. So I think it's really just changing those levels on those consumables and then considering whether they really need to be manually consumed at all um, to benefit your gameplay loop positively. If it's a situation, I think, in my opinion, and Alex, you could tell me if you disagree with this, but I think if it's a consumable that is going to add 50% or something more, what have you, to that meter, then I think maybe it's worth opening the inventory and consuming it manually. But if it's me, I would like to see like cherries that are on the ground or berries you could pick from a bush. You just consume them automatically. So when we pick them from the bush, I want to see them be used, unless you have a cooking mechanic that you've added to your game and you need those raw materials for that reason.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways you can set up those sorts of uh, survival uh, resource usage mechanics. What's great now is that we can use all the number keys as hotkeys for things. Now you can't set up the number keys to consume an item from the inventory, at least not yet. I made that suggestion to some of our mechanic designers because I think that would be I'm thinking like Diablo and stuff, where you've got like a hot bar of items in your inventory, and you can start spamming 5 to drink potions or whatever. Um, So you can set something up like that. You just won't be using the item as a consumable from your inventory. Uh, you would have instead of using a pickup item at all necessarily, you could still just have the object on the ground. When you interact with it, you'd use something like a plant behavior or a plant component, I guess it is now, instead of a pickable component. So instead of it being picked up and put in your inventory, it just kind of disappears. But then you would add a variable up in the rule system to say, oh, now you've picked up that consumable, and you'd show that in your on-screen variable inventory. So now you're holding 1, 2, 3 food items, and you press whatever button, and then that number goes down, and it, uh, heals you, quenches your thirst, fills your stomach, whatever mechanic you're using with it. So uh, if you want to make um, it faster for the player to interact with those consumables, instead of using the consumable system, you might consider using just variables and number controls. But like Joe said, you could also use the consumable system still and just increase the values on those things, so that way it's a little better balanced. And that's something that comes through playtesting, right? Like you can set it up, and it can be close enough that the game is completable, but as you see more and more people playing, you realize, oh man, they're really thirsty all the time. So you want to make sure that you balance those things out. And that really just comes from playtesting and getting feedback from a bunch of different people, when you can see like, oh, wow, out of the 15 people that gave me feedback on this, 10 of them said that they never seemed like they could get the thirst to go down enough. So uh, that's why it's really valuable to share things on the gallery, if you don't have land available, or share things on your land, and try to get a community, either in the official Sandbox Discord, or in your own little community on your own Discord, or through social media. Just get players around who are really invested in trying out your stuff, and giving you feedback like that.
Yeah. Okay. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to pull up Frosty Earth 2 real quick.
All right.
And it occurs to me that we're doing the good thing, Alex, where we're gonna make this stream run really long, which is
Oh
fine.
yeah, totally. I was
Uh,
like, we're gonna be in and out like 1 hour, and
no, no, gotta do it
chat, we're
correct.
not
Let's do it
capable of
correct.
that.
Yeah, let's do it correctly. Make sure that these people know the cool things that they can fix and work on and change
Yeah.
to, because honorable mentions are getting rewards as well. So if
Mhm.
they're publishing on a land or something, then they're gonna need these feedbacks. All right. So coming into Frosty Earth 2, the first thing I want to note is that the aura of this game is great, and it was very clear
It's moody.
uh, where good was going to happen on your stat sheet, and bad was going to happen on your stat sheet. Right, coming into this center camp, it's well lit. Everything that's dark is danger. Got it. Um, However, what I was missing here, um, is that there wasn't a absolutely foolproof clear tutorial on the basics. So I found myself searching for the resource lithium for a very long time, and while searching for lithium, it didn't seem like there was an ability to save my own life, despite clear mechanics to get as close to that as possible. So what ends up happening in this game is there is a day-night cycle, and on top of that day-night cycle, you have a safe zone, that isn't totally safe. So um, there's some random number generator sort of mechanics to that day-night cycle as well. So one night might be extremely harsh weather conditions, and one might be not so bad. But I found myself slowly ticking away my total health pool. During the day, your health goes up. During the night, your health goes down. And I couldn't prevent it from just slowly eating away at that as I was trying to find a lithium. So, what I would say to do is add a tutorial at the beginning with just the absolute raw essential basics. What am I looking for? Maybe make lithium have a little sparkle animation or something out there in the world. Um, and have some survivor there that tells me like they're actually still live, right? And they're going to tell me exactly how these game mechanics are going to work so that I can get into those narrative pieces as you go if they are there. Whether there is narrative or not, maybe it's just you and that one person trying to make it, you know. Um, so that was for me actually the only issue. I literally could not end up continuing the game well, um, naturally, right? If I can go back through and I can watch the videos, then I'm gonna know exactly what to do because the dev already knows exactly what to do. But the first thing that I want to do is play through this without that video and make sure that it does work well. And that's what I was doing. So that's really it. I did really once again really enjoy the aura of the game, and I think you've got some really good basics here that can turn up into something great.
All right. Where are we moving to next?
All right, I'd like to move on to the Rainbow Maze.
All right.
Okay. Uh, one second. I want to read through my notes here to get a synopsis. I have a longer block text here. Let's see. Okay, I remember this one. Just looking at the video you've got going on here. Okay, so I think the reason why this one ends up going into the honorable mentions and not in the top 10 is because I wrote, and don't take this negatively, though this is a negative statement, that this act that you're seeing on the screen here of getting into the maze and working your way through the maze was prohibitively tedious. I'm going to tell you exactly why that is. So you can see in the video really quickly that it cut from inside the maze to the start of the maze. And you get offered three options of ways that you can make working your way through the maze better. Whether it be increasing your income while you're in the maze, or increasing your ability to break down these walls, or um, the resource value, I think, of picking up that little prize. I can't remember exactly what the third one is off the top of my head. But what happens here is that the player is given really not that much agency, and that's what you want to see. You want to see the player not just work their way through this, but have an appropriate amount of time, clear audio and visual indicators for when your timer might be up, things that can give you either that sense of urgency and drama of not being in there, or they give you the autonomy to to work your way through here and feel more powerful as you're progressing. Um, so being able to buy those upgrades for your damage to the doors does make you feel more powerful. But as you work your way through the pink doors, you're immediately presented with the blue doors, which offset that upgrade a little bit. And you're working way towards the center of all these colors, and you're trying to get through all the colors in the maze, um, all the while intermittently and abruptly being cut back to the main base. So um, I wrote specifically that abrupt cut without the audio cue sort of left a pang of frustration for me. Is that I'd like to see if there is like a, I don't know if you remember, I'm pretty old now, but there was a Sonic the Hedgehog, which is an IP that's well known. The original Sonic the Hedgehog, when we're in the underwater level, this sound is happening.
Yeah.
You're dead, right? But
It's
the
the worst.
drama is building, and it's intense, and it's
Yeah.
bringing you into that game. And so if you had something that is doing that, some kind of a any lull noise, and you could do this with the game logic's pretty good, just by simply having like a, you have a timer, and when we upgrade the timer, it affects how this logic asset slowly moves across other sound trigger logic assets, and when it moves across, it goes bing, 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 bing. You could do that. Um, But anyway, overall,
What Joe is
it's the
suggesting is to tap into the shared generational trauma where you can immediately raise the blood pressure of any millennial. Um, but no, I get what Joe's saying though, that you having audio cues is very important for alerting players that they're running out of time on something, and it doesn't have to be super stressful necessarily. But it if this is something that the players need to be managing, then maybe that little bit of stress is actually good because when they overcome it, that is another boost of accomplishment that they feel. Another more recent example of something that uh, Joe probably doesn't know because he never plays Warzone. He only plays multiplayer in Call of Duty. But if
true.
you, when you're playing those like zombies and Warzone and DMZ and all those more like open world parts of Call of Duty, and uh, it sort of happens in PUBG. I guess it kind of happens in Fortnite, but it's mostly noticeable in Call of Duty. Is that you have to wear a gas mask as the zone is closing in towards the end of the game because that's a
Oh yeah,
they
yeah.
limit all the games to like 45 minutes to an hour, and if you
Familiar.
don't get out of there before the end, it's going to be rough. And so you've got this storm closing in of toxic whatever in the air, and you
Hmm.
have to have a gas mask, but the gas mask has a limit on it. So if you're spending too much time in the danger zone, your gas mask will reduce in quality until it breaks. And as it's breaking, you can hear these sound effects of like kind of crunchy noises. And on screen, you start to see cracks forming on your lens. And so you get a whole bunch of feedback. You do have the little bar in the corner of your window that shows the actual percentage of what's left, and which I think they do have some like time in the maze. Uh, let's see. Does
Yep.
it actually say? Oh, at the bottom, time before expulsion. Is that it does actually have that timer there, but that's not in the center of the player's view. So having something all around the peripheral to kind of alert the player. We do have full screen visual effects. You could add some noise or some distortion or some color changing. Um, you could even add more. You could increase the fog or something. There's a lot of different ways that you can tell the player, hey, this is the mounting danger. Get ready. You know, it's coming, and we've got a lot more sound effects now too. That you can integrate, and you can set all those things off with timers. So it's not too much to kind of plug these mechanics into the timer that you already have running. So just all those things will help the player stay kind of in tune with the rhythm of the game. I'm mixing my musical metaphors here, but they stay in time with the rhythm of the game, and when they really get the feel for it, they'll feel accomplished. They'll feel like they're mastering the game when they start to get the feel for that. So it definitely would go a long way just to have even some sound effects and visual effects to keep them in sync. And yeah, Kachinkaverse asks if you can affect the camera to have simulated cracks. So, not cracks specifically, but there are several full screen visual effects. If you look at the VFX settings, um, I think they're actually called shaders in the. So we have VFX, which are like localized things like fog on the ground or lights or fireflies and magic spells and things going off. And then we have shaders which affect the whole screen. We have a really intense one that's like tripping out where everything gets all wavy and colorful. uh, Unfortunately on that one there's no slider for how intense it is. It's just like, you shouldn't have drunk that. And then it's all the way there. But the noise, camera distortion, motion blur, um, uh, depth of field blur, uh, color adjustments. Like you can see the whole screen just kind of went dark just now. That was potentially one of the full screen shaders. It might have also just been an ambient lighting thing. Um, so all of those things are effects that you can do. No cracks on the screen yet, but that would be a cool one. Post processing. Thank you, Fred and Fred. Not shaders. It's called post processing.
All right. I'd like to move on to Rose Planet. My notes on this one are pretty short,
All right.
but just want to show it on the screen so that the
Mm-hmm.
dev, if they're scrolling through, can see it. Okay. So Rose Planet was really one of the prettier games that had been made. And it looked like fundamentally um, it was going to be really good. But my notes, as I did not watch the video, were it was very nice, very cute, but no direction or tutorial. Without knowing what to do or where to go, I tried talking to every person that I could find, none of which seemed to keep that tutorial or narrative going. I think I'm meant to farm flowers, but picking up seeds around the town doesn't allow me to plant them either. Um, if the dev could build up that guide on how to play, you'll probably have something very nice here. So we can see in the video shown that the flowers outside the town are pickable and movable. But what really happened to me through my gameplays, because I tried turning it off, reloading it, and coming back, was that I had no idea that the flowers outside of town were pickable to help progress some of the things that needed to be done. And I wasn't getting clues from quests that were happening on the right side. I didn't have super clear narrative, you know, that told me that they were pickable or anything like that. So I came into the town, and you can see, um, small packages of plant right, like right there that they just picked up. Um, Seeds. And I thought that would be the way to progress things, but it really just didn't work like that. It was just a smaller gameplay loop. So actually, just a super quick 4-step tutorial would have got things kicked off. And I guarantee across the board, you would have picked up another point out of like 1 point out of 5 at least, just all the way down, if that tutorial had been there. That's all the notes I have for this one.
All right.
Okay, and then I got the corrupted invasion. I believe you had listed that one.
Yep. 1 second. And on a positive side, I I like this dude's hair. They did a good job with the little prince
Oh yeah,
character. He
yeah.
looks
And
good.
like I said, the art design is really really nice in throughout. You know, and I think a lot of devs had that going for them on this particular game jam. I think
Mm-hmm.
more so than any other game jam so far is that the art design really kind of stepped up, even in experiences that weren't listed in the
Mm-hmm.
honorable mentions or the top 10. They were just really cute, well done things that stayed true to the source material.
Yeah. All right. You said corrupted invasion, right?
Yep.
Okay. Here we
Okay. So this particular experience had, I'm going to call it like multi-phase gameplay that only ran into essentially one game-breaking bug. And this didn't just happen for me. I consulted some other judges. Um, But as we're going through here, you've got some enemies that have really clear UI for like what is their line of sight, so we know how to avoid them. I didn't end up having any issues with them. Well done on that. However, when I was going to collect these resources, you can see that on this video here, when you obtain an axe and you go to mine a tree, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You just click, and you're gonna cut the tree down with your axe. You're gonna log it, what have you. Um, but some of these resources throughout the gameplay end up taking as much as 15 to 20 clicks, um, because as we move from zone 1 to zone 2 and possibly zone 2 to zone 3, your your axe is less effective in zone 2 and it's upgradable in zone 2. But when we do get to zone 2, unfortunately, the game breaking bug presents itself. And that is to say, the axe and the harvesting tool and the new pickaxe that you can build did not work. So, some of the testers had noted that they immediately upgraded without harvesting all the necessary materials for all of the upgrades. So they couldn't progress the quest and couldn't get into tier 3 phase at all, because you come into this section, and it ran into that. What I ended up doing with sort of that knowledge is I affirmed that some of the assets wouldn't work, but I kept different ones like the regular axe still as the regular axe and didn't upgrade it so that I could progress a little bit further. So this really just comes down to a quick quality assurance test. Um, and this is why, generally speaking, what you want to do is publish the game before the submission date end. I noticed that probably like 3 days before the submission date end, only one experience out of all of the experiences that we tested, only one person had published their experience early. So if you can publish it early, then you can get people in the community, people on Twitter, us potentially to test those games, and we can help you understand what things we found broken. And another advantage to that is sometimes as a dev, you know your game inside and out, you know exactly where to go, and you might think that it's much easier than it ends up being. But in this case, it's just a simple bug that you probably could have fixed that ended up negatively impacting. Because otherwise, again, it's pretty cute art. It's pretty concise. The theme is consistent throughout, and I would like to see that go a little bit further with that.
Right. Where are we going
Okay,
next?
I got Momo's Little Prince Rescue. Okay, so this particular experience, um, I actually very much enjoyed it. If I'm the only one voting, I can't remember. I think this one by the numbers was up there for me. Yeah, that was within my top 10 person. So it's probably right on the edge of just getting into this. But there are some good reasons why it may have come down into the honorable mentions. Um, I wrote good construction, good design, and nice application of the theme. But the small things will help push you to the top here. With the use of guns as harvesters, and you can see them picking up the gun here, um, the guns could be left behind to automate the work. I don't believe that was intentional design. But you could use this to your advantage because assets would respawn on a timer. So I would recommend that you instead change it from a gun to a harvester. And this is actually maybe even a little bit more in theme with the idea of the Little Prince because it's a very non-violent tale. So if you just changed it to some kind of abject mechanism box that would harvest, you could take that box and you can go plant it. Um, Now, one of the issues that we ran into technically, um, because that's really a small thing. Yeah, I can leave it behind and it can harvest, and you could use that as a feature. You might say that's not a bug. But on the downside, the store did seem to break if you die. So as we were playing through, and this is one of the experiences that was listed as a multiplayer experience. I actually think it's the only one that was a multiplayer experience submitted into this jam. But as we were playing, if you jump off of the island into the darkness, it does deal damage to you. That's fine, assuming you're jumping into space off of the island. But when you take that damage and you die, you now can't buy the gun at the store. And there were different levels and different versions of the gun. So there was incentive to go back to the store to get an upgraded version. And uh, the gameplay did reset at the end of your playthrough. So you could do it again and enjoy the same experience if you really liked sort of the way that things were working. Maybe you want to do a speed run or something like that. So you had replayability going for you, and that's really good. But the breakage of the store persisted when the game reset, which means if a player comes in the middle of the gameplay and they die, they're not going to be able to access that store either. As a multiplayer experience, you're always going to have your instance up and loaded, so it's something to consider. But again, really good roots of a game here. It was interesting to see how your game could be expanded. Your literal world grew as a, and it gave you a good sense of progression for your gameplay. So lots of good things going for it, and just the small stuff made the difference.
All right. Just typing in the replies so I mute myself because I don't know how loud my keyboard comes through. I don't want you all to hear clicky clacky over Joe's helpful feedback here. Where are we going next? I think we got a couple honorable mentions left.
And we got three more. It looks like Arcadia Island is one.
All right.
Okay. So Arcadia Island is another great example of somebody who had fantastic art design, and it seemed clear and concise. It all worked in together. Um, there were a few issues technically, once again here, that got to me not on a high level, but on a low level. One is when you're speaking with the NPC Foxy, which you interact with quite a lot in the early part of this game, you always have to actually walk through the character in order to get the dialogue to work with Foxy. So, what technically the reason why that's happening is because your interact asset, the thing that actually triggers the conversation, doesn't seem to be Foxy themselves, and it doesn't seem to be inside um, the the asset. So if you had used, for example, a calculator, and you made it invisible, and you turn that collision off, and that's the thing that you actually interact with when you walk up, the calculator technically is the thing that says press E to talk to Foxy. You have to make sure for sure that that's inside Foxy where you place Foxy. So this happened almost every single time that I talked to them, um, and that's just a small thing, but it ended up adding up where you're like sometimes Foxy was all the way in the camera while I'm also trying to read the text, and it's like it's not a big deal, but it takes you out of the immersion of the narrative, and it takes you also out of your own player character, like because it now doesn't seem like Foxy's talking to the player character. Anyway, further on, you end up at some point sort of building your own home on this island. And after building my house, I was tasked with making a fire on my house, just outside. There's a campfire. However, in order to do so, you needed to chop down trees and you needed an axe. And this is where the really big problem came in. Um, the uh, the handle or stick asset that was necessary. You're supposed to merge a stick with a rock nearby to make a rudimentary hatchet, rather. Um, didn't seem to exist. So I don't know if this is a logic trigger event, um, or or something, but make sure that you definitely have that around, or make it something where maybe because this is just a harvestable asset, maybe make it so that I could produce that, or make it so that you just spawn multiples of them, and I only need one of each component to do so. Uh, it would, if you had multiples of them, give the player a sense of agency to go get that handle from wherever they want. Or if it comes out of a tree, then there were plenty of trees around, and you can make the trees respawn on a timer or something to make sure that you can't break this. Um, but yeah, it was in what we do for QA. You typically call this a blocker event, right? It's just a hard stop of your narrative, and I wanted to see more. I wanted to go further. So I think if you fix that axe problem, again, you're going to get at least another point across the board all the way, and be able to do stuff. You got a great sense of progression when you were building your house in this game as well, um, because every second asset that you deposited into the house location, you literally saw the house being built. So I thought you did really good with that. But that's the only notes I have here for Arcadia Island.
All right. And I see we still got a journey of friendship and
Little Princess Star Adventure, I think, is the other one.
okay. Which one do you want to do first?
Let's do a Little Princess Star Adventure just because it's there. Okay. Um. So in this particular, I just watched a short clip of the video so I can remember exactly sort of what my notes say versus what the gameplay says. But in this game, you have a quest that involves you actually moving across these constellations that it shows there, which is really interesting, really novel, and it does of um, a really good job of making you feel like you're in that universe that is the Little Prince, that you are, you know, traversing through multiple planets, and well done on that, I would say. However, um, you also have a money mechanic that helps you manage travel from the main planet that you're on into that constellation. You need to use money to get fuel to fuel your plane from the narrative. That biplane can go into space. So you go into your plane and then you travel from planet to planet on those constellations. But when you're using the, I see Kachinga says there's always a however, and absolutely, because that is, I hope, really helpful to you as a dev. I want to make sure that there's a however so that you know how you can make these like not just a top 10 game, not just a game that you can publish in the sandbox game, but a game that draws people to play your game and draws new people into the sandbox. You know what I mean? Like you want these games to be just so darn good that people have to play them. Um, anyway, so the the money ends up becoming the issue in this game because it makes it an unforgiving game. I got into the constellation. You sort of have to walk across the line of stars. You know the way that the constellations connect and make these beautiful patterns. Um, and so you're walking a tightrope, and if you accidentally fall, all of the money that you spent on fuel is just gone now, and you have to use that money again to go back up. uh, Another small problem happened. Um, there's also no warning as you go up into the constellation that you will need to have additional fuel in the constellation to be able to fly back down. So, what I would say to do is in this particular game, you had 10 fuel, as I recall, to go up into the constellation. Make that fuel all you need for the full trip. Because as I recall, I could be wrong, you needed five more fuel once you got up into the constellation, but I didn't know that I was going to need that five fuel. So I flew up with 10, could never fly back. And I just had to jump off the constellation and use, sort of more cheesy game mechanics to come down. As I'm jumping, fall damage is also on in this experience. So if your player gets stuck in the constellation, they're really stuck. Jumping down, the player dies. Um, And so, you know, one of the notes, and this didn't impact you too heavily, but it did impact the score a little bit. One of the notes on that Medium article says that the player cannot die or shouldn't die, rather. So it's not
Or at
going to
least
impact
the
greatly.
Little Prince.
The Little
So
Prince character,
yeah.
right, right. And in this case, you're not playing as the Little Prince, but you're doing all those Little Prince things.
Mm.
Um, so it's one where when I'm reviewing, I'm not, because you're not the Little Prince, it can't be a disqualifier, of course, or something like that. And really, no game got disqualified on that sort of merit in this particular jam. Um, but the it could for me take off half a point. You know what I mean? And if it's if it's deciding between the games of four or five, and the rule says player shouldn't die, and the gameplay player can die, then I would mark that down to a four personally. Something like that. All right, so let's move on to A Journey of Friendship as our last honorable mention, and then we can do the legitimate top 10 video. What do you think?
Uh, so I mean,
We
we've
already
shown
did
what the
that.
top ten are.
Yes.
Do you want?
We
do you
do.
want to give feedback to the top 10, or do you want to just jump into fourth place, third place, second place, first place?
Oh, yeah, I definitely like to. Well, okay. I'd like to do the fourth place, third place, second place, first place, and then before we go into gameplay for first place, go over what 5 through 10, if that makes sense. Does that seem like a good idea?
Sure. Yeah, we can do 4, 3, 2, 5 through 10, 1.
Yeah,
We're
yeah. There we
this
go.
is new
Then
math,
they can get
folks.
that way everybody gets their feedback, right? Because I think so far chat seems to be enjoying the feedback process and
Oh,
understanding.
I've got a
You know,
squeaky chair. That's it's on my stomach.
I didn't hear it at all. You're good.
The Bitfox says it's RNG. Okay, yeah, we'll go with RNG feedback.
All right. So, journey of friendship. Journey of friendship. Um, it really just had a few material collection quests, a light bit of story, and a maze with a quiz at the end. So this is a pretty rudimentary game that touched a little bit on that Little Prince theme, but what I would probably do here is if you as a dev know that you have a sort of a quiz or a lore based challenge that's going to come up at the end of the maze, and wow, watching the video, you aced that. You knew exactly where to go. I did not ace that maze like you just did. I'll tell you that. um if you know you're going to have a quiz, you as a dev know the answers, but me as a player, I probably don't. Maybe your player has never been exposed to the Little Prince. Maybe your player has never been exposed to your world if you're doing it in another way. So, if you are going to do a quiz, what I recommend that you do is you put that lore in the game first, put those answers in the game first. And we saw this used in various ways, even throughout seasons in the past of the Sandbox game. And we, you know, Alex and I left that same exact QA to those people. Um, you can't just have questions because then chat's just going to be like, "Hey, what's the answer?" And somebody's going to say it's option 4, 2, 4, 1. You know, that's all that will boil down to. So if we build it into the game, then you get uh, more deep gameplay loops and more fun. Um, Something else that happens here in this particular experience is that there isn't, like, right after that maze quest and that quiz, there really isn't anything that leads the character from a place to a place. We don't get clear direction to go through that PC panel. So I literally thought the game was over without watching the video and was like, all right, that's it, you know? Um, so I think this is one of those situations where it's a little bit of terraforming, it's a little bit of pathing, maybe putting down carpeting inside the building that can lead us to important locations, things like that that'll really take this um, and improve your gameplay long term. Um, Seems like the logic's working great. The you know it's just small. It's small stuff that'll take you once again to that higher level. So that's it for the honorable mentions, Alex. Uh,
Yeah, just a note on like terraforming and pathing. Like,
yeah,
um, I love open world games. Like, give me Fallout and Elder Scrolls and Far Cry and like all the wide open spaces that I can explore and go wherever I want. There's nothing wrong with a game that is wide open for people to kind of discover hidden things. But what you have in all of those games is clear objectives of what your next steps are. You know that you haven't beaten the final boss bad guy in Far Cry. You know you haven't solved the dragon issue in Skyrim. You know that you haven't activated the water purifier plant in Fallout 3. Like that, these are clear end goal objectives that maybe you don't know where they are on the map, but you know that they need to happen. So you're driven to keep exploring and find those places. And there will be NPCs who might tell you where those things are, or in-game maps that can go like, oh, this whole gray area over here, you haven't explored that yet. Maybe you should go check that out. So there's nothing wrong with having a game that has an unconventional layout, or these places that are maybe obscured at first, and you don't know where they are, but you do need to communicate that with the player so that way they don't just accidentally think the game ended and there wasn't a like big finale or something. So it's whether you do it like Joe said with carpets that can kind of go like, oh, there's a hallway over there. I didn't really see that because of the way the walls were. Maybe if I follow this carpet, I'll go over there. And people will do that instinctually. Like we were just testing another game, Joe and I, not related to Game Jam, where I, I the quest. Well, I don't think there was a quest at that point, but I knew that I had talked to an NPC who said that they'd meet me at the bathroom, and I'm like, where's the bathroom? Like, I've been running around this whole place and I
Yep.
have no idea where the bathroom is. And I kind of just in my head went, well, I'm in a hotel. I like the bathroom's usually like at the back of the lobby. So I figured it out, but it was down like a really narrow hallway that you couldn't really see. So
Hmm.
players will be able to kind of instinctually figure out layouts if you lay them out in a real life kind of way, but that is also kind of based on real life experience and not everybody has that. So doing things like carpets on the hallways or paths in a field, um, breaks in the trees so you can see that there's an opening into the forest. Even just signs, literally an exit sign or a
Yep.
bathroom sign or something. All those things. It doesn't necessarily have to be a waypoint that's like really super in your face, telegraphing where the location is, because that can be frustrating too. Like we kind of, I think we've been spoiled by games a little bit lately, where Skyrim is just kind of like follow the waypoint. I think you can actually turn those things off if you don't want to look at them. I'm sure there's a mod for it. Uh, so it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
um, it doesn't have to be an exclamation point that you can see from across the entire map to
Yeah. I
guide you
mean,
there.
the the thing is that there must be a clear sign, and yeah, you're right. You don't need yellow paint, right? You don't need exclamation marks.
Although I don't hate yellow
But
paint, I'm okay with yellow
so,
paint.
as as a nerd over here, um, I
No.
recently played the World of Warcraft remix or remaster, or whatever it is, where you're just playing the original version. Comparing that to today's version, the old World of Warcraft doesn't have the markers. The new one does, right? It'll be like, quest will be here. Here's where it is on the map, and you can't go wrong. Go find wolves over there. But the old version would really just say, when you're talking to that NPC, in the woods nearby, there are troublesome wolves. Can you help me handle those wolves? And you have to just kind of go like, okay, where are the woods, right? And pay attention to that story in detail. So the you know the direction can be given by those NPCs, but you have to make a connecting thread of the story in order for that to make sense. And so in this particular case, you solved a quiz, and once you've solved a quiz, it's like that character doesn't then say, "Thank you for helping me with this. Now I'm gonna be able to go see my brother or my aunt, or you know what I mean, like
Hmm.
who lives in this house." And
Right.
if all of that was told to the player, then you could say, I should probably go to that house, you know, or whatever the next step of your question is. Nonetheless,
All right. So we're gonna show our fourth, third, and second place winners now. You want to save the main feedback for the end? We'll do the looping video again.
sure.
Okay. These videos are about 2 minutes long each, because I do them more as like a trailer. So 1 second while I get that up. Mhm. All right. And I did make a trailer for first place, but I want to do the old fashioned way where I would just start playing the game in the game maker when we get to that point, because I felt bad that I was making these trailers for fourth, third, and second place, and first place is just I mean, you get like the whole stream, but it's not the same. So I do make the video, but we're not going to show it today, just because it's got a really cool intro. I'm not going to say anymore. I don't want to spoil it. So without further ado, here is our fourth place winner in the Tiny Quest Game Jam in the Sandbox with Little Prince. And it goes to 3 Days with the Rose by IZA Voxelab. This is the one that I pointed out had the really cool rotation mechanic as you travel between different sections of the game. Look at this.
That's great. It's like a separate asset that's been placed in another location on the land. The camera like moves to that. Is that right? It feels like it.
Yeah, so they're using a fixed angle camera. So you can't zoom in and out, and you can't pan the camera up and down. You can only orbit the camera around the player. So they're teleporting the player probably like inside that animated asset, because they're not the little prince jumping there. So they're teleporting to that location and then playing the animation, and then you zap back over to the actual place. But I mean, the way they set up is great. And then they've got this cool crafting menu that pops up. Yeah. Super excellent presentation.
Yeah, and just for the sake of since we've got some time here, you want me to read my notes on this one?
You've only got about 5 seconds.
Okay.
But I mean, we can just loop the.
I mean, okay. Well, yeah, let's just do it that way then. Okay, so my notes here. It was a nice little world. Something that you won't see in that trailer because they didn't choose to fail. There was a post-loss screen with a narrative beat, which was very interesting. It took me until about 60% stress to realize that stress came from picking up the raw materials, branches, ores, what have you. So I had many more resources than I needed to have, and far fewer tools or the wrong tools in order to help satisfy the needs of the flower. So something to notice is that flower in the center is going to it basically just says, I have this need right now. Walk around this planet to help satisfy that need. And it's very straightforward. Can we talk to the flower to do so? In that, if you're doing it the best, if you're doing it the most optimized because you have played before, what you want to do is basically wait at the flower. Flower has demand, and then you walk to the location where the respective demand is. But I explored the world first and harvested everything, and it added that stress to me. So what I would do to help satisfy your really optimized player, your person who knows sort of what they're doing and they want to speed run this, is add a random conversation that maybe the player is having to the flower. It doesn't necessarily have to be something where it's like a pop up and click confirm conversation, but more of like a text bubble that comes up over you, over the flower, what have you, where you're talking back and forth with it, where you're really caring for it. And then when the flower has those hard demands, they are press E to get the proper request. hard demand, um, and then we know when we go do a task. And make sure, of course, that if you do that, those text bubbles, that they're proximity based opportunity. That trigger doesn't come up unless you are in that proximity of the flower. But otherwise, this is just really nice. I loved how some of these games and experiences did proper, almost cutscene level transition. Um, and a lot of games did that in this game jam. So you guys did really, really well with stuff like that, because yeah, it is a teleport. Yes, it is sort of a loading screen. But in this case, it's cute, it's animated, and it makes you feel like you're going, even though it's on the surface of the same planet visually, it makes you feel like you are going from a place to a place and not just abrupt hard cuts. You get that full space zoom travel, which is really, really nice. All right.
I'm just going to answer
Sorry
a
about that.
question out loud because we got some good questions from the Kitchenverse in here about they're curious about like how the planet thing is done, and I answered it a little bit in the chat, but I'll elaborate and I'll answer their follow up question out loud. So the way you would do a transition kind of thing like this is, like I said, it's a fixed camera, so it doesn't do any zooming in and out. You can't do it with your scroll wheel, and the game itself will not be affected by collision. So if you put the player behind something, the camera's not going to be affected because the camera is at a fixed distance to the player. So when they do these little transitions that you're seeing on screen right now, uh, they're interacting with the edge of the map, and it's teleporting them to some other part of the game map where it's this little overworld map of the planet, where everything's kind of miniature sized, like this. So the player isn't the actual little prince that's jumping on over the edge. The player is actually inside that planet somewhere, or at least behind it. So actually, I would probably say inside, because the player can still control the camera to rotate it there. So you would actually want them inside the planet where they're totally hidden. And that's an animated asset of the planet, and the little prince on the edge of it is all one asset. So when you go to the edge, it teleports the actual player into the middle of the planet where they're hidden, and then triggers the animation of that planet rotating and the little prince jumping over the edge to happen at the same time. Once that animation is complete, it's sending another message to teleport the player back to the real planet uh, at the location where they're playing. Now, this is done on a one by one. I'm not sure exactly how they've laid it out. I don't know if they're reusing the same surface and respawning all the assets on the different sides. Um, that could be the way that they did it. They may have actual separate rooms, but I'm not sure if it would have been big enough if they did separate rooms for each side of the planet, because they're not actually rotating the planet as you see in this little demonstration here. So um, yeah, it's just a really effective communication tool of like, this is where you were, this is where you're going, and it looks really cool. So that's how that was accomplished. As far as doing cutscenes, yeah, we absolutely can do cutscenes. There's different ways that you could do them. We don't have a way to play video across the whole screen. Like you can embed videos, but we don't have a way to make like a full screen cinematic. But you can trigger whole events to happen in series with each other to make cutscenes. You can use the time. I think it's just called the timer behavior. Um, that will have times in seconds and minutes to say certain events happen at certain times in this order. So you can start running that timer at the beginning of your cutscene, and after 3 seconds, it sends something, a message. After 5 more seconds, it sends another message. Whatever timing is appropriate for the scene that you're setting up, you have to direct this whole scene. Um, and you're a director or a conductor, like making all these things happen with the timing. So you can tell animated decorations to play an animation that you made in VoxEdit. You can tell VFX to trigger. You can tell sound effects and music to trigger. You can do full screen post processing. You can do weather and lighting effects. You can spawn things. Basically, any in-game action that you would have happen during regular gameplay, you can make all those things happen as part of a sequence of events on a timer. And if you need to kind of lock the player into a space where they can't escape, so you kind of force them to watch it, you could do that. Or you can make it like a lot of open world games where the player can kind of wander around and, oh, well, if they missed it because they weren't paying attention, that's their fault. So yeah, you can totally set those things up. VoxEdit, I believe, has a 30-second time limit on animations. It used to be 20 seconds, and I think I asked for it to be moved up to 30, just so we could easily have a half minute. But you don't have to be limited to those 30 seconds because you can make multiple animations on one asset. You can make your whole animation for up to those 30 seconds, then you take the last keyframe with it when it's highlighted in VoxEdit, and you click new animation, and the new animation will actually start with the position of all those objects on that last keyframe, or whatever keyframe you're selected on. So you can actually continue your animation indefinitely. You could make there's not a limit of the number of animations in VoxEdit. There would come a point where the file size would be ridiculous, but you can keep on triggering 30-second animations to happen at the end of the animation. So in Game Maker, you can say play animation 1 at the end of that animation, play animation 2 at the end of that animation, play animation 3. You could have, you can be Kojima and do like a 30-minute cutscene in your game. You can do what was it?
Metal Gear Solid 2.
It was Metal Gear Solid 2. Yeah,
2 hour long cutscene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would
And
be a
then
ton of work.
just like walk down a small path and it start another cutscene.
Yeah.
What?
People were talking about that on Twitter last night.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could totally do something like that with VoxEdit if you wanted, but I would say do that in concert with the VFX and the sound effects and the music and the lighting. You can make some really effective storytelling that we've seen in lots of different games. I think a particular good one is Chicago Noir. Had some really excellent cutscenes that happen in it. You walk into a room, you start talking to somebody, and you kind of get locked in that space, and the conversation goes on, and the NPCs are emoting, and they're saying different things to other NPCs. So yeah, you do that 30-second of animation, and then you can just trigger the next part of that scene with the next animation, and it can be seamless from the player's perspective. You can make a 5-minute long animation that was a ton of work to set up in VoxEdit, but from the player side, it just keeps running. So yeah, you can totally do something like that. Max Payne 3. Oh, don't talk to me about Max Payne 3.
Don't talk to me about Call of Duty Black Ops 6 Max Payne 4.
What? I love the Max Payne series. Actually, I love everything by that studio that I've played. There's a couple games in there that I haven't played yet. Control is one of my all-time favorite games. I can't wait to play Alan Wake 2. I love Max Payne 1 and 2. Max Payne 3 had a very different vibe from Max Payne 1 and 2 that had like a real kind of like supernatural kind of vibe in the background. It was actually very much like True Detective in a way, of like it feels like something supernatural is going on, and they kind of all explain it away, but you still feel there's something eerie going on in there. Max Payne 3 didn't really have that vibe, but the thing that I hated about it is like I would hoard all of my weapons because I was very much like a survivalist. Like, I'm gonna get a big weapon, I'm gonna save that ammo for this tough boss fight, and then like you'd put your gun down on a table, you'd get blown out a window, and all your weapons were gone. I'm like, why did I save all that? Like, I was used to games that would let you keep all the things that you gathered, and it was just like, no, we're gonna reset your inventory every other level. I'm like, whoa. Anyway, this is not related to Little Prince at all. Let's move on. So I hope that answered your questions, Kachingaverse. But while we're playing the next one, I'll check the chat in case there's any follow-ups in there. But we are gonna get our third place winner set up here. Just a second. Gotta get all my ducks in a row. We're doing it live, folks, as we do. Here we go. All right. Y'all ready? Here we go. Our third place winner in the Tiny Quest Game Jam goes to Little Planets by Great R Works Studio. Oh, I love flying games so much.
Oh yeah.
I feel like they must have used swimming, except I'm not seeing bubbles, and the motion doesn't
It's
really look
definitely
like
swimming.
swimming. It is
It's
swimming.
definitely swimming.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an audio cue that told me that when you leave the atmosphere of the planet,
Oh, okay.
you can hear it go into
splash.
that. Yeah, it's a little splash noise. However, I'll tell you exactly what's going on my notes, Alex, if you're cool with that here.
Yeah, go ahead.
As we go. What a fantastic application of planets. This is a quote. Leaving the Earth to get into space. Really nice animation. Nice scaling to convey the characters. They have distinct planet appearances. That was great. And the only negative thing that I ran into that I probably, I could work on as I was going, but I actually thought that the oxygen levels, there's a meter on the left that shows your oxygen, and you can improve that over time. But when I first started the game, the oxygen levels are lower than later. Yeah. I felt like the oxygen levels were quite low for the player. You get 50 oxygen, which is 5 ticks of oxygen that happens based on distance that you travel. And you can regenerate your oxygen. Maybe it's time. It felt like distance because all the planets are really well laid out. They're all pretty close to each other. But I ran out of oxygen when I was moving water from the tippler to the planet. And this caused me on a playthrough to get stuck and unable to play because the asset was a pickable asset that you're carrying with you, rather than having it, yeah, sort of just be in your inventory or something like that. So then when I respawned back on the main planet and got back in the plane and I flew back up, once again I wasn't able to go like straight to that thing that fell in space, though it was still there, which was good. I wasn't able to go back and get it. So that was the only like major issue. But I will tell you another fun thing that happened. Not like fun, not like positive to the dev, but also not negative to the dev, just incidental, is at the very beginning when you're clearing those baobab trees off of the first, like the main planet there, um where the rose is. Those trees have an effect that another dev ended up using as like the thing that got rid of the snakes, um, in a different game. Um, but that cloud effect, that particle dust effect, that you could use, made my RTX 4090 PC crash. Not once, but 3 times in a row on the very first tree that I harvested,
Oh no.
until I actually changed the processing clock speed on the GPU. I have no idea why.
That cloud effect does look very realistic compared to everything else around it.
Yeah,
Um, let
you
me
can see.
I can rewind to
It looks like you're
that
coming up here, right? No,
that
yeah, yeah,
poof.
yeah, a little
Like
bit. That
it's
that oof. Yeah,
yeah, it's fully shaded.
full volumetric clouds. You
Yeah,
know,
maybe I
um,
feel like that
but
we should report that.
yeah, it is probably something to think about.
um,
But that's not on you, Dev, right? That's just a fun thing that happened where, uh,
so fun.
just letting you
10 out
know
of 10.
my commitment to your game, because I was like crash and I look over So I've got a two PC setup, one for production for like stuff like this, and then the actual gameplay computer. So that's all it's doing is playing your game. And it wasn't like the app crashed. My PC dumped. And then I'm like, that doesn't seem right. Let's try again. Dump. I'm like, okay. Maybe it's just something weird going on. And I kill every other app in process. No Steam, no BattleNet, whatever I've got on that computer. And dump again. And I had to, yeah, like I reduced my GPU clock by like 30% just to be able to. And I'm like, dang,
Worth
that's
it.
nuts. Yeah, I mean, so whatever's happening in those particle effects is kind of crazy right now, and I'll be submitting that via our more official channels, Alex, soon.
What? Sorry, I missed it.
That's my official. That's me submitting through an official channel to get that looked
Oh.
at for the cloud effect. Anyway, wonderful game, great art, great
Yeah.
design, good narrative, well done.
I love the little airplane, and even like the wings do a little bounce, which is not like a typical. Like I've never seen a biplane's top wings go like that, but it gives it
No,
that
it
little
doesn't.
that
But
little Steamboat Willie, like
yeah,
retro
it's perfect.
19
Perfect for that.
1930s cartoon kind of little bouncy thing going on. I love it.
Yep. Yep. Plus, in that element of a cartoon, kid children's book, those kind of animations, uh, mm, so nice.
Mm.
So nice. Chef's kiss. Well done.
So there was a question I answered in the chat from Twitch that I would like to answer out loud. It came from Ann and Joyce asking, are we allowed to sell the land, which comes from Game Jam winning? Somewhere I have seen if we sell the land that came from a Game Jam, the account will lose its credibility. Now, I don't know where you saw that or who said that. My personal opinion, and this is not, I'm not saying that this is the policy of the sandbox, but my personal opinion is it's your land. You're allowed to do what you want with it. If you want to sell it, you can sell it. I've I've got kids to feed. I've got kids to put through dance classes. I if I win a prize that's sellable, um, then I might sell it to it's like I said, it's your land, it's your wallet. This is the whole point of it being your wallet, your keys, your ownership, your things. That said, there may be some policies with the game jams that I might be newer and I might not be familiar with. So I would check with vPire to make sure, because vPire is very involved in like the rules of the game jam and how all that stuff is implemented. So if that is something where uh, maybe the sandbox sees like we're giving you sand and land, we would like you to use the land, but you're selling the land right away for more money. Maybe we just won't send you a land if you compete again in the future. I haven't seen that policy, um, but that I would check with her to confirm. Um, uh, and PandaPops is saying in the chat, I know for VoxEdit contests, we have some that gave away catalysts. However, they are given out so winners can mint those winning assets. If they sell catalysts, they may not be eligible to receive catalysts for VoxEdit contests. They'd still get sand. So that's an important distinction and something that goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show when we mentioned what the awards were for this game jam. Um, a long time ago, we used to give land so you could publish your game jam game on it. And now with these brand deal ones, typically you might be offered, or that you have the opportunity to be offered to be have your experience published on the IP's land. So you don't actually need that prize land to publish it. And again, vPire is going to be the voice of authority on this, but from my experience, what I remember from previous rules, we've never said you have to use this land to publish that game. It's always been it's your land. You can do what you want with it, whether you want to publish something on it or sell it. Um, maybe you sell that land so you can buy catalysts so you can mint assets to do giveaways with. I don't know what you're gonna do with it. It's your stuff. So like I said, check with vpire to confirm, but uh, I think it's okay if you want to do that. You have my approval saying that's an okay thing for you to do with your winnings. It's your stuff, and if other people have a problem with you doing that, that's that's on them. I like having people's approval. I'm a bit of a people pleaser, I think, but there's some things where it's like, no, it's your thing. No, it's nobody else's business what you're doing with it. If you want it fair and square, have fun with it. Whatever you're gonna do. All right. So now that that's out of the way,
All
um,
right.
oh, Sir Alican says there was a rule: if you sell, you cannot receive it again in the future. Mm, that may have been a rule, and that's why I said ask V because I don't remember ever seeing that rule. Um, but yeah, check with the actual person in charge, which is V. All right, let's move on to our next one. Oh, I wiggle a little bit. I didn't. Joe, I set up correctly, but me, I do a little teleporting when I change the camera view. I forgot to fix that. All right, let's go to our second place winner. There we go. Second place in the Tiny Quest Game Jam. Little Fish by Entenium. This one is highly addictive. I did give a bunch of feedback on this on the live stream. We broke down how it you could make a game like this. How the mechanics worked. Um, One of my biggest feedbacks was, and I think Lucas was the one that kind of initially stated it. He could sense my frustration, and he kind of asked a leading question. So we noticed that sometimes the enemy fish just kind of spawn right in front of you, and if it's a bigger fish, if it's a little fish, it's great because it's like free lunch. But if it's a bigger fish, then you die. And there's not a lot of warning when that comes up in front of you. And so the creator of this game, I can't remember if they were watching live or if they just saw our feedback later. But they thanked me for the feedback. So I have had a chat with them since then. So we're just kind of saying this for the benefit of everybody else, because the creator already knows my feedback on this. But I made suggestions on how they could spawn the enemies off to the sides of the experience, so that way they aren't immediately in front of the player, and you kind of get to let them filter in from the left and right, and they're not just appearing out of nowhere. Alternatively, you could have like an egg spawn first, and have the fish hatch out of that egg, so there's a little more warning, like a little bit of a timer, kind of.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
a variety of ways that you could accomplish that same type of thing. What did
Yeah.
you What did you have
I
further, Joe?
agree with that. In terms of the very small thing that added frustration to this game, that's literally it. Um, I immediately translated that we pick up the algae and the algae triggers. Then once we do have the algae, all these things are going to spawn. So any sort of visual indicator to where they were going to spawn, not just for this game jam. Here's my exact notes. What a nice idea with a simple story. Gameplay loops are quite rewarding. It's easy to play and difficult to master. It has clear UI on a time tested idea. Um, I also wrote it's sort of missing the soul of the Tiny Prince a little bit. it's such a very small thing because you know it's got the vibes in there. Um, and I thought the use of the Playboy boat was slightly out of place.
So
Okay. But the
I
game is quite nice. Now, I understand maybe you're not going to rebuild a whole boat. You own a boat. Why not use
right.
the boat? You know, but my
I
brain
think there
went,
was a
this
reason.
is,
So this game was live in the Builders Challenge also. So they published this
yeah,
game on the land. So as
yeah.
part of the Builders Challenge, if you include a couple of um, IP assets from a list of some of our major IPs that we work with, you would get a boost in the Builders Challenge points. So the Playboy boat and also this Playboy bunny-eared floaty up at the top, little donut floaty
Mm-hmm,
on the surface.
mm-hmm,
Both of those count for that boost. So
yeah.
I think they're appropriately on theme. Maybe not the best brand to pair with Little Prince though.
Right. And that's, yeah. So accounting for the spawning, that's the gameplay thing that will make this better. Um, I guess one other thing is in my gameplay loops, though I did attempt eventually to use the nets, um, the where I say this game is like a time tested idea. Um, I think we've all played games like this before, where you want to make your number go up so you can go eat the smaller number, right? Whether it's a snake game or it's the fish, you know, and there's mobile games of this. So um, it's a formula that we know works. People like to play them. Um, yeah, it's it's just fixing that one
Oh,
mechanic.
and we've got
Just
Antenium
one
in the
mechanic.
chat here with us, joining in from YouTube. Congratulations on your second place win.
Hmm,
Uh, and yeah, they said they're gonna change the boat later. So, yeah, there are plenty of other boat assets out there, and but it made sense to do it for the Builders Challenge. I get it.
yeah.
Um,
And that's sort of another angle as well is if you know you're using it for the builders challenge, yes, you have this build, the one that you published here, but in order to make it more compatible with the little prince, make another boat, put the red rose on it, you know what I mean, and then publish it in the game maker gallery instead of on the map with that one, and title it for game jam instead of the one that you did on the main map. And that little extra bit of effort can go, you know, again, it didn't really negatively affect you in terms of like my scoring or anything like that, but I just was like, that seems out of place. So only considering if I'm making edits to put it on the map, ironically, I probably wouldn't have had that. But you did it for good reasons when it comes to putting on the map.
so Kajoichis has a question on how this relates to Little Prince. Now, if we look at like how the rules are written for this thing, or not even the rules, but the uh, how the suggested theme. I think for a lot of these game jams, it's been the case in the past that it's not that you necessarily have to have the IP totally visible. It's that it has to go with the theme here, and it's about a universe of possibilities. And specifically, they're asked for mechanics of resources, crafting system, and survival stats, which are all present in this game. You have survival stats of your hunger and your oxygen. You have resource collecting of grabbing the straws that are floating in the water, and a crafting system where you can drop the straws as a net to catch bigger fish. So that totally lines up. The no physical violence, you are eating fish.
Mhm.
So, if fish eating fish counts as violence, uh, it's not particularly gruesome. I think the disturbing thing was the screams I made when a shark would eat me. So, but uh,
Yeah.
you do technically play as the little prince. You're the little prince helping this fish, and I believe the oxygen is actually related to the little prince because the fish should be able to breathe underwater. So I think the oxygen is about making sure that the little prince survives being underwater, and you just get a game reset
Well,
if
just
if not.
really quick to this point, Panda noted something that's important, and I think that if you're watching and you're not on Twitch, you probably want to read this or hear it. Um, Creativity on the theme. Let's assume that you know the the IP, the Little Prince, is thinking about publishing the games on their lands. It's possible that they may request of you, if you make a game like this, to change the theming slightly before you get on their land.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's some examples of this that Alex and I have tested, and with our team in the past, um, where I think it was
For
like the
Playboy
Playboy Game
specifically,
Jam,
which
right? Yeah,
is funny.
yeah, yeah. So the Playboy Game Jam, where they came through and said, this gameplay is fine. We like the narrative loops, but we need to see this change in the way that you write the story, or the name of this character needs to change, or stuff like that, like
To
small
align
stuff.
with their brand.
Right.
Yeah.
So they may come through and say, yes, this game, we understand it's a top 10, but we want to see these little changes before we're going to put it into the space.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's pretty much it. It was a great game. And
Yeah.
to the credit of this game, I think this is I'm not going to say the one game, but of all of the top 10, I think this one, again, because it is time tested, it has more replayability value probably, and is more likely to get like general consumer attention. If you were somebody coming into play in the sandbox that had never played a sandbox game before.
Yeah, we noted that I think Lucas was struggling to find the word, and I was like, "This is a good casual game. This is it's not everything that the sandbox can be as the sandbox with you're not doing equipment and you're not climbing through an open world and you're not doing all these quests and stuff, but this is a good example of not everything that the sandbox can be, but what the sandbox can be that stretches beyond what people would expect in the sandbox. This is really transformative game building on this platform to make something that is fun and familiar to a lot of people, and like a surprise in the sandbox. Super accessible, like Yumalitok says, and uh, I it's just a fun game. Like, I mean, that's what it comes down to in these game jams. Really, like, is the game fun? And this was a really fun game. So, there could be more going on to make it more focused on the IP, but the IP is in there. One of the key features of the Little Princess is about growing up, and that's the entire narrative in here is about the fish growing up. Um, it's not uh, it's not a Kojima narrative, with a 500-page script, but it's the narrative that it has in there is definitely about growing up. So, uh, great job, and can't wait to see what you build with all this next. All right, we are gonna move on over to our 10th through 5th place games, in no particular order. However, Joe pulls them up. If you would like to do
Alex, I'm
those.
going to need you to actually help me out with that, because I don't think I highlighted all 10.
Okay.
I was going down my list when we got to honorable mentions. I'm like, put an orange highlighter on all of those, and I
All right,
did.
all right, all right. Okay. So
So yeah.
so the ones that we went through just now, uh we did Little Fish, if you want to highlight
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yep.
We did Little Planets,
Yep.
and we did 3 Days with the Rose.
Yep.
And you see what first place is, and you know not to mention that one.
Do I see that? Where did we put that?
Oh, I don't. I'll DM it to
Okay.
you.
I'm like, I don't see. Maybe,
See
maybe
it
it
in
was
Alex
somewhere, and
stream.
I'm just. Oh wait, it's the word results, isn't it? Sure.
probably. Or I could just pull up the
Yeah,
videos
probably.
besides the first place winner. If people stretch their minds back to
Yes.
the top 10
Okay.
video, they'll be able to figure out the first place winner
I
before we
see.
have it on screen, but
They
it's
are
okay.
listed in order of ranking. I see. Okay. All right. So yeah, feel free to pull them up, Alex. Feel free to pull them up, and we'll
All
give
right.
those feedbacks as we go.
Let's do Blooming Rose.
All right. Mm-hmm. 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 I need to. Oops. Okay. So in the Blooming Rose experience, I ran into some small issues, technologically speaking. Um, the for me, and this may not be the case in every playthrough. Um, the character is asked to solve for some pests that look like snakes. This is actually the game that I mentioned also does that volumetric cloud effect.
Yeah.
Um,
I was wondering if you were going to have
and
the same issue in this one.
I didn't have the crashing issue because I had already, um, like this is way lower on the like order of operations where I had to test um, on the list. This was one of the very last games that I
You'd
tested.
already done your hardware
Yeah,
adjustments.
I already did the hardware adjustment, so I didn't have that issue. However, when I collected um, the torch that is used to get rid of the pests, um, seemed to be stuck to the character after picking it up for me. I wasn't able to do what you see here in this video and drop the torch so that I could pick up the cage and get rid of the pests. I was just stuck with the torch. Um, and then, secondly, while having the torch, those pests may spawn underground. Um, and so, if the pest spawns underground, then um, when I use the torch on the pest, because it was proximity based trigger, it did work. However, the cage then spawned in the ground when that happened. Um, so for me, this goes up in the rankings simply by doing just a little bit more quality assurance testing before publishing. Again, it comes down to push the game um, for somebody that or anybody on Twitter, or someone in the Discord, or one of us to test. And when that's solved, you're doing much better. That was it for me in terms of the negatives or whatever. I think he did a good job in excuse me, making sure that the planets were defined distinct. Um, um, the art's good, the worlds are nice, and I
Yeah, I
just
love the use of
a
color,
little
like these
yeah.
pink rings around this blue planet, and also the little paper boat going on in the background. I we were just looking at was it I am Nigul made a paper airplane shield, and I was talking about how I love like origami and paper folding. It was a big part of my childhood, and yeah, make we need more folded paper voxel assets. So keep it up.
Cool. All right. So what's the next one up then, Alex?
All right, next up we've got Feel the Love.
Okay. Let me find my note on that here. Okay. This was lovely. Um, Visually speaking, it was nice that we were in space the whole time. It was slightly. I want to make sure that we get into the world here on the video before I go into the. It was slightly um, basic mechanically, like UI wise, because it's a side scroller game. Um, and there's not much verticality, so you're a little bit limited in terms of like terraforming points. If I'm talking about like you know the creativity section, but your animations are great. This aurora borealis like effect that you're doing back there is beautiful. Um, the fact that it appears to transpire on or in a novel, like you, that textured layer that's happening right there is almost like the pages of the book, which I really really liked. Um, now, um, my actual notes: really nice world, nice transitioning between planets, cute resource collection, everything that spawns those little two-dimensional resources, nice art. However, it could use a longer timer on caring for the rows. Um, because I would like to see, as we get sort of further and further away from the center, and you're going to the more distant planets, the timer's still the same for the rows. And so if that's just a little bit longer, then it gives me a little extra room on the sides to enjoy your art. Um, and I think again, this sort of comes down to having anyone else but you as the dev test it, because you as the dev, you know exactly where you're going, what you're doing, and so your timers are going to be a little bit different than if Alex and I played it for the first time.
Yeah, we've seen there's one experience in the Builders Challenge too that came up a couple times on stream, and the creator is like, "Ah, yeah, I got to the top of that in 55 seconds," and I'm like, "It's gonna take me 5 minutes because
Yeah,
it's
you
tough."
haven't run it 30, 40 times, right? Like,
Right. You don't know all the intimate details of exactly how you laid it out with all any potential time saving shortcuts or just being super familiar with it.
yeah,
So it's and that's a frequent thing even for even AAA game design companies. Valve has talked about making Portal behind the scenes and them having people play test, and you know just needing like a little bit of dialogue or some decoration to just direct the player's view to something that they were just missing every single time that they played, and they're like, people are
mhm,
getting stuck here, they don't know what's going on, and it just that tiny bit of direction might seem like, oh well, that should be obvious, but it's obvious to you because it was your idea. uh, for 75% of everybody else, they're not gonna
yeah.
have that same thought that you had. So
Well, it also goes back to something you mentioned earlier in an unrelated game. The I had to just very consciously not say the name of the game out loud. That hotel game that you mentioned where you couldn't
yeah.
find the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
So Alex comes through and he mentions to me in a DM, like, I couldn't find the bathroom and et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, I knew exactly where it was. I knew where I was going because I had play tested this experience 4 or 5 times, you
Mm-hmm.
know, over a long duration.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I was like, oh, well, I mean, it's right there. Obviously, we know exactly where we're going. And even though the dev had like reworked that hotel and redesigned it a few times, even like affecting the layout, I was still like, okay, I need to start here. I need to go there. I need to do that. And I ended up doing it considerably faster,
Mm-hmm.
um, without hitches. And Alex is like, the first time user experience, I guess. That's the point that I'm trying to
Right.
get at.
Yeah, it was the first time that I had played it, and I was just like,
Yeah.
I walked out the room, and I'm like, okay, I know I'm supposed to go to the bathroom, and I've been playing in here for about 30 minutes, but I did not see a bathroom before, and just because it's
Right.
kind of like tucked down like a little narrow hallway that I had just
Hmm.
walked past before. Uh,
Fun
and
fact
the way
about that
bathrooms in
experience.
hotels very often are.
Yeah.
But there's also
There
usually a
actually
sign.
used to be a second bathroom, and it was
Oh,
on the other side of that part of that structure.
it's
So,
funny because I actually looked for there being another one. After
yeah,
I found the bathroom, I was like, that was the men's room.
yeah.
Where's the other one?
I mean, yeah, you would think that there would be like a ladies' room, but for sure it was definitely not. And that's because of our feedback where it's like we went into the wrong bathroom. Anyway,
All
yeah,
right.
unrelated. So let's hit the next one.
All right. So we did that one. We did those. Little Prince and the Magic Whale. This has
Oh,
some really cute artwork, I will say.
yes. Okay. So let me see 1 sec.
It's nice that they have a control tutorial right at the start.
Okay.
Simple and to the point.
Yeah, I think this one, um in terms of being on the theme, was exceptional. It did a good job of making you feel like you're in space for one. Um, but I think it wasn't uh, a little bit. There was a little technical difficulty that I had. So I'll tell you the first run that I did. Um, the quest comes in and it says collect 3 stars, and we can't move out of the first little asteroid belt to get to the second planet until you collect the 3 stars. So the quest pops up. It says collect 3 stars. What do I do? Of course, I go and collect those stars, and I'm like, quest clears. Let me move in through to the next region. And the wall itself, that little like transparent wall that you sort of saw just right behind my head there, um, just didn't come down, and I was stuck. And so there was no like conversation to be had, no UI to be had. So you can see that that's different here in this video. Um, but I ran into that as a technical issue very early on. So again, it comes down to publishing and then having someone else play that experience, and you're going to rank like way higher on this list. But it's pretty nice. It was a beautiful game. The design of the individual planets once again was spectacular. Um, the use of the asteroid belts to sort of lock things into different groups was fun and interesting. But yeah, it just a small little technical issue. Sandra says tutorial wall backfire. Exactly. It's like you want to have somebody stuck in that box, but at the same time, you don't necessarily have to, because you can build the tutorial wall in a different way where like the stars that are in the next zone are not pickable unless you've completed quest 1 or something like that. You know, quest 2 is not achievable or retrievable rather, um, unless we complete quest 1. Then the player has the agency to walk around and do whatever they want, go wherever they want, maybe, but they can't, you know, they have to go back to the beginning to properly.
Let me just say, I love the Artist's Planet. It's reminding me of like a couple specific artists. I don't know if there was one in particular that inspired this, or if it's, I don't remember if this particular thing is in the movie or not. But I like the look of it. It very much stands out, and I dig it. But yeah, this I should play this on stream sometime because this looks really cool. I haven't gotten a chance to play this one myself. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, I
love
mean,
the
and
the parasailing birds,
so
as Kachinga
because
called them.
Sandra is here, the dev, and they had asked like, did it impact my score that much?
Mm.
Um, Obviously, it didn't impact your score terribly, right? Because you are in the top 10, and that's good. And there were a lot of good games that were submitted in this game jam, so it was very nice to see that. Um, but yeah, I think it did hurt. But again, um, this is a quality game, so you've got a land now. You can publish it into that land. You can. This is thematically really well on point. So I don't think you really have to make any changes for the Little Prince team to say, would you be willing to publish it on their land as well? So you've got a lot of really good things going for you. You're going to get a nice prize out of it for sure. Um, but it is one of those things where when you hit those game breaking bugs scenarios, it is going to negatively impact the pointage. You're getting like at least 1, maybe 2 points from so I'm not sure if you're familiar with the categories, so I'll read off the categories. There are 4 core categories and then sort of a bonus points possibility. Creative idea, you're scoring very well on that. Level design, the level design is done very well as well because it's concise. There's zoning. Um, it's clear that you're in a certain planet's radius and the objectives are going to be within that radius. So that's good. The game design, the game design gets into more of the mechanics of the game. And so if the mechanics of the game are broken or appear to be broken, if the UI isn't super clear on how to get to a place where you're going, that can affect your game design points. And then the fourth category is playability. And so often, if game design is broken, where that would make the game unplayable. And so typically a mechanics issue like this that stops the player's gameplay, you're going to not just lose the 1 point on the game design, but you might also lose a point on playability. However, you can see from, well, at least I can see because I can see some of the judges' scorings here. You know, wow factor. You got some good wow factor from people. Those sort of intangibles that say, is this really on theme and doing well with it? You got really good marks on that. Um, so it's nice. It's nice. So don't feel down. I know, understand that it's a lot of work, but at the same time, the work's not wasted. You have the ability to now publish this on the map. That's going to get you, you know, people may be playing this for the Builders Challenge in the future if that's still going. I'm not keeping track of that off the top of my head,
So the
but
the Builders Challenge 2 ends tomorrow technically. Um,
okay.
I don't know if it ends at like midnight tonight or if it ends sometime in the day tomorrow. That the cutoff I think is probably visible on the website somewhere on the event page. But I don't think it's the last time we're doing something like that. So we'll see what opportunities are out there in the future, and I'm sure. Well, okay, I shouldn't say I'm sure because I haven't actually talked to them. But as far as games that the Little Prince team would want to have on their estate, I have a strong feeling that this one will be in the mix. So, uh, uh, yeah, very much on brand, and we get to see the whale. Oh no, the whale! He's in distress. This is a super
It's
cute
so
whale.
cute. It's such a
Yeah.
cute game.
You got all these round planets in this voxel world, and then we got
Yeah.
this round whale, but it all
Space
looks really
whale.
really good.
Yeah. It's great.
All right. Next one we're moving on to is No More Toys.
All right. Okay, this is an interesting one. The No More Toys experience is, again, it's one that's sort of thinking outside the box in terms of theme, right? It's not staying hard, laser focused in on that Little Prince theme. Um, However, it is in the theme of like we're in that children's playhouse situation.
Discovery and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Um, that said, this is another example of a game that the dev probably didn't have any sort of issue and would have never known, but I accidentally broke the game by just being unfamiliar with it. So mechanically speaking, in this particular game, in order to get from one place to another, you're this sort of robot with what's almost like a pumpkin head. Maybe it is a pumpkin head on it. Um, and the only way for you to continue to do uh, the problem solving is to keep your robot um, using oil and give your robot batteries. And those are placed all around the map. They're everywhere, but um, they're limited, and they're once again consumables that are in your inventory. They didn't respawn or regenerate. They didn't come from anywhere. So I did all of the main bits of this section and then broke the game by not having enough oil. Your character slowly gets slower when you don't have any oil. You can't
Oh.
jump as high. You can't run as far.
Oh, I see
You
the
can't
speed
jump as far.
reductions. Yeah.
Yes. So I had a speed reduction of 9,999,999, and I couldn't do anything. And you'll see in just a second that there's a little puzzle right here where we get to pick up that robot once we get all the parts for the robot. We fixed it. And then it says literally just walk this path. And in like 15 seconds, the path that's right above the character right now. And if you can walk that path, then you'll get on to the next puzzle. And sure enough, after 4 years of playing this game, winning and losing parkours to Alex and Panda. I couldn't walk this
Mostly
path. I don't know what.
losing.
Literally, it's and I'll tell you why. I When I was talking to Panda about it, because we were playtesting this particular one at the exact same time. Um, so the robot, you see how it's like pick up or anchor point is actually placing the robot behind the character? That messed with my brain for some reason, where I could not. Right there, they fell off as well. Now I feel vindicated. The dev fell off. Thank, thank you, thank you. I'm just
It's
trying to walk this robot along the path.
you're
I
used to
fell off
carrying
two.
things in front of you.
Yes,
I think the
and
idea is that it's following you, but it
right,
is
but it's
it's
in the
using the
way of
mechanic
like where
differently.
I see my feet were. So I had to
Mm,
like turn the camera all the way straight vertical and just look top down in order to be able to walk that path successfully, because my perception of where my feet were going to be was somehow in my brain I kept thinking I needed to land right between the two. Like
mm,
I couldn't let the robot fall off the back and I couldn't
mhm.
fall off the front of
So when you got
any
two
spot.
targets and you split the difference, and you're like, well, that didn't help.
Yeah. And Panda on point. He's so bad at just walking, because you literally, if you just had a fresh oil, fresh battery, you just had to walk. Patient Pete, walk. But what happens if you don't walk fast enough? And this is where the game breaks, is that path lowers down one set of blocks. And so then you have
Oh,
to go back to the beginning.
oh no.
And you can't jump because your speed is reduced by 9 million yearly uh, speed points. So you can't jump to compensate for the fact that the blocks fell one level and you're just stuck in that area. Um, and it's, again, does that happen to everybody? No. But the fact that that can happen affects gameplay and it affects playability, or game design rather, and it affects playability. Um, the game design aspect is the fact that I have no opportunity to go backwards and fix my battery and my oil. Maybe there's like a repair station, not a consumable, at the beginning of the game, where if I speed ran, I could have got back to that or something, you know, um, a sort of a checkpoint. But nonetheless, that was the only thing that again would have taken this up to a higher level. From a personal standpoint, I probably would not have like all of these tiled textures. They feel a little bit flat. I would have worked on lighting a little bit, but otherwise, like I didn't put that in my notes officially, just because that wasn't like the primary concern. It does feel like a liminal space, which is interesting and different compared to most of the other experiences. Not a negative thing, just a thought.
Something important to
Anyway,
note though about the textures on there. Not so much like these robot face blocks, but the blue blocks. Let me rewind a little bit. This texture here, stuff like this will make streams very difficult to watch. So I mean, like people are hopefully playing the game, right? Like you want people to actually play the game, but a lot of the ways that
mm,
people will find out about your game is by watching videos and live streams of other people playing it. So when you
yeah,
have a really intense either grid or noise pattern on compressed video content, it oftentimes looks like garbage on online.
yeah,
I can't because I'm making the show. I don't really see it like the live view that you all are seeing, but you may have already noticed it. That when the player's moving, that those tiled floors get all like blurry and muddy.
yeah,
That's the
yeah, and
same issue we had in Follow the Green Line, which I think is a really fun game. I really enjoy playing it, but when I went back to watch the actual video, I think I was trying to like find a clip or something in there. Um, I was watching the VOD of the live stream, the playback, and was going, oh, and there's not much I can do about it because I'm already streaming at the highest bit rate that that the streaming platforms will let me before they start going, hey, we're gonna
Yep.
limit your connection because you're sending too much data to us. They want it already compressed a certain amount, and then they do extra compression on top of that. So it just ends up looking, anytime there's like a lot of little things in the video all changing at the same time, that can really be a struggle for live compression, especially. Not so much, these flat textures, will work fine, but anytime you got like lots of tiny details. And actually, I just saw that complaint about Star Wars Outlaws, that people were saying that it looks like blurry and messy, but people like compared screenshots from their actual gameplay compared
Yep.
to the video, and it's like night and day how blurry it is when it comes across to YouTube, because they've got full screen noise to kind of give this gritty, Tatooine kind of feel to the space, and
Mhm.
then you put it on a live stream and it just looks blurry, and it looks really good when you're playing it, but it doesn't look so good on stream. And so sometimes you'll get people who are considering playing going like, why does this look so bad? Um, so it's just something to be aware of. I don't think it should be the only factor in designing assets, but it is a factor in designing assets, is making sure that things present well the way that you want them to. So just something to be aware of. All right,
All right.
we've got two more in our top 10. We've got Once Upon a Chime by Paul Life Made Me. I think this is one super cute, but I like the idea of having a spell book that you can just cast spells
Yeah.
wherever and like change the world around you through the spells. Kind of that
Hmm.
I can't remember the name of the Harry Potter game that came out, but you're just a wizard, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. This particular game did so many things correctly in that it teaches you how to use the spell book properly. It teaches you, uh, how to purchase, get golds, get mana, all the things that you need to do to progress through that story. It checkpoints nicely, um, and you know, it's cute as heck. Uh, I really liked the aesthetic. Um, the Here are my official notes that I gave. Um, this is a great little parkour puzzler. It had excellent art design. Loved it. Consider adding in another spell instead of the dismiss. So I don't know if you can see it well in the video here, but whenever you use the spell book, because it looks like Paul's speed running this game, uh, they know what they're doing. But whenever you use that spell book, you've got enhance, you got burn, you got sight, and you got dismiss, and each one of those does different functions and affects the world in a different way, where you need to use those to be able to pass through the puzzles, and then on top of that, can you parkour? But my suggestion is, rather than have dismiss, have something called time turner. For this quest right here, this one, I failed that quest, and I couldn't figure out for the life of me how to reset the quest. So, what happens in that quest is you have to have these islands out there. Sight, sight fixed it. Jeez, jeez. I no, I reset the whole
Regrets.
game. I restarted the whole game to be able to get those platforms back. When you jump on the platforms, the
They
getting within
fall.
proximity of them turns them to physics on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and they fall.
Mm-hmm.
And I Panda cheated and swam up the waterfall. I
She would.
I'm telling you. Yeah. Yeah.
What a try hard
But I'm
move.
like, what's going on over here? So anyway, The core things
I
about
would
this
too.
game are what makes it great. I I mean, I don't think Paul is watching right now. I know you're still here. I saw you. You say I was bad at walking. Nonetheless, Paul, if you're watching now or later on VOD, uh, this is the most mechanically solid game I've ever seen you make. And I'm gonna say this like your dad. I'm proud of you. Proud of you, son. You're killing it out here in a good way. Uh, because we've watched Paul make games in game jams for
Over a year now.
years now. Yeah.
At least a year.
And
Yeah, I don't remember when
that
the first one was.
progression in skill is clear here. You're making things that are just really solid and fun and entertaining, interesting. Um, so keep on going because it's working it's working out really well, and these skills that you are putting together um, are going to translate into this game engine and any game engine. You're really learning the fundamentals of game design in a great way. So good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
If you did the thing called Time Turner, by the way, back to that, and then I'll let Alex run with this. Um, all that is just resets every quest, or like every challenge or whatever.
Yeah. A little rewind button. Um, yeah, I mean, I could see like just in the first few moments of this, what Joe was talking about with the uh, having a little tutorial thing going on, but you're also like immediately reinforcing those skills, and that's really important to go like, okay, this is what you can do. Now we're gonna let you do it, and now we're gonna take the training wheels off and let you just do it because it's part of the game. And you were immediately reinforcing that burn mechanic by having multiple instances where the player would have to do the same mechanic, uh, but mixing it up in different ways. So uh, it's that's like game design 101, and you're nailing it. So I would like to see more of this, like I don't know, like a 4 hour game of this. Once we've got saves and everything sorted, or just kind of you could duplicate this experience, keep all of your game mechanics, all your rules and your messages and stuff, and just kind of reset the terrain and make more levels for it. And then you can have chapter one on a land, chapter two on a land, chapter three on a land. Because this looks like so many of the indie devs that I follow making their own bespoke engines in Unity or whatever, and they're making full single A or double A games, full releases of stuff that's really cute like this, just cute platformers, and I vibe with that stuff. I would love to see more of this. So this one is on the short side, but it's fun and it's cute, and we want more. Give us more. So, uh, totally, expand on this. Have your expand the world for the character and the mechanics that you made, and yeah, love it. All right, our last one of the runners up in the top lower 10. There's not a the 10th through 5th place.
Yeah, there
in
you
in
go.
no particular, technically we're doing them in alphabetical order here. So we've got the little story.
Okay. So the little story. Let's see. Okay.
But before Joe
Okay.
gets
I
started, I
remember
just want
this.
to say I love the lighting in this kitchen when you light the fire up. I mean, it's a simple thing that we make pretty easy to do in the sandbox, but sometimes it's just really effective looking. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean the stars on the strings, fantastic. It makes you feel like it's a stage performance, which I think is one of the best applications that you can do. Like to keep it in theme with it being a book for one, and then secondly because this is predominantly side scroller activity. Um, but um, this one ended up losing a couple of points, like once again mostly just due to like mechanical bugs, And honestly, things that the player could avoid if they paid attention to the narrative. So I'll give you an example. I started up and uh, I get the axe and I left click to attack the tree, which causes the character to do a punch animation. But the left click makes the axe work on the tree and the axe also work on the player. And I took 10 damage every time I swung the axe. If you right click, that doesn't happen. You don't deal damage to yourself. But the left click, you could do both. Um, so that's one aspect. The fact that it can be broken, it, you know, you lose just a little bit of pointage there. Secondly, um, for non-English speakers, um, they may know, they may not know. Um, you've used acronyms in the game like RMB and LMB, which I'm a gamer. We know right mouse button, left mouse button. But unless you say written out left mouse button in parenthesis, then people might not know what that is because, you know, left with an L isn't happening in Korea. You know what I mean? So, so I wrote down here, make sure you're absolutely hand holding your users through the tutorial section. You want it to be impossible to fail, and you want it to be so darn in your face, obvious, easy that they can get through the first little bits. And then they'll be able to enjoy the narrative and game mechanics. Um, that's that's the one sort of thing you could really work on in this experience for me. And that was it. What do you think, Alex?
I agree. Um, I feel like a good suggestion for the sandbox. I don't know if anybody else has made this suggestion before, but would be to add some more icon options. We already have E, like you can see on the screen right there, E to select the response in the asker behavior here. And we see it when we walk up to characters. It goes, E to interact or whatever. Because we have more interaction options now with the mouse and with the number keys, it would be nice to see some icons in the engine, so that way we can direct players with something a little more on the nose, right? Like a little icon of the mouse with the different buttons. Um, and yeah, I mean, this is it reminds me of Terraria a little bit. The presentation, it's just a cute, sweet look to it. So I don't have a lot of mechanical feedback besides what Joe said, um, but I do really love the visual presentation of this game a lot. They put a lot of work into the effects and the decorations to make a nice, convincing look here.
Cool.
All right. So I think it's about time for us to drop a giveaway form.
Oh,
Oh, dang.
did you have one of those?
No, I got one ready. I got one all
Oh, very
set.
good.
Yeah,
Very
I've
good.
had it ready since before the stream started.
Dang.
Yeah, but I've been
We're a
holding out
professional
on
at
y'all
that.
to see who would last this long.
Consummate professional.
So, just like last stream, we're giving away 5 Wizzy the Orange hats to people who do not have them yet. The reason I'm giving away so many is because even though Joe and I have already been streaming for about 3 hours now, uh, and we're still going to keep streaming because we got to play the first place winning game, Joe and I are going to come back at the end of after the end of the stream, after a little bit of time, to do the final mage raid, at least the final one that I'm doing. The ambassadors might do some more streaming today or tomorrow, but this is the last mage raid for me, and I want to make sure that everybody who wants to have hats can have hats for that uh, within the giveaway mechanic. I'm not just giving everybody hats. So we're giving away extra hats today, and If you don't already have Wizzy the Orange's Singed Hat, go ahead and fill out this form. I just shared it in the chat. I'm going to paste it over to Twitter as well. It is in the chat on Twitter, not as a comment on the tweet, but you need to actually open up the stream on Twitter and go to the chat in there. I just pasted it in there. Go ahead and fill out your wallet that you use with the Sandbox. You could use another Ethereum Polygon wallet, but you're going to want to use the one that you actually use for the Sandbox because that's where the hat's going to go. And I'm going to send it as soon as the stream is done so you can wear it if you're playing with us. And we need your platform that you're watching from and your username on that platform, just in case the wallet is like invalid or something. I need a way to contact you to make sure that I can still get it to you. So that's all I need, just those 3 things. If you don't already have the orange hat, fill out that form, and we're going to draw at the end of us playing through the first place winner, which I suppose I should get ready here. Let's fire up the game maker.
Oh.
Here
we
we
gotta
go.
do it in the game maker.
Yeah, we're gonna play the game.
Let's go.
Very careful observers might have already guessed who the winner is because we just did the reviews on places 10th through 2nd, and they may have already guessed what the winner is, but we haven't announced it yet. And where is it? Here it is. I'll pull that up. Get some Game Maker audio going. Did I mute the... 1 second, my bad. I have the Game Maker audio muted from the main menu. Like, why am I not hearing the loading music? Intenium doing making a bet in the chat. I don't know. Maybe somebody will take that bet. I don't know. Who's to say? Who's to say? To steal Lucas's bit. Here we go. Now we got some nice Game Maker audio in there with our nice new orchestral composition from our music director. I can't remember his name. Panda knows. He's a cool guy. All right, so without any further ado, we're going to present to you our first place winner in the Tiny Quest Game Jam, partnered with the Little Prince. We've got Crafted Realms by Vox Machina Studios. Intenium just won their bet. Congratulations, hey. Vox Machina. I don't know if you're here in the chat with us today, but even though I did make a video for you, I wanted to show everybody this live in the game because we had a whole conversation about how to do cutscenes earlier, and we're going to show you right now what a cutscene can look like in the sandbox right from the start. So this says, craft, explore, and decide your fate as you navigate through chapters filled with adventure and heartfelt choices. Prologue. Another day, another masterpiece, but today feels different. Strike. You remember your friends. You remember your pets. Remember the days and the people who have passed by. You strike your hammer with renewed strength. As if something has come over you, you strike your hammer with all your might. Fueled by all the experiences you've gathered over the years, it feels good. But then, it also gets lonely. Strike! I can't wait for them to remaster this with more sound effects. Because since this game jam closed, we've added like a few hundred different sound effects. So we just had a whole, I mean, it wasn't a full cutscene in that it all happened automatically. We did get to progress through that narrative at our own pace. But that's an option you
Yeah.
have. You could do that on a timer. You could have speech bubbles, um, or you can have it be player initiated. All right. So we awaken in an unfamiliar place. We need to seek out a local to help. So I don't think we can return home this way. And you can see we are in a book. We go to the edge.
Mm-hmm.
We are in the pages of a book, which that's a great use of the binding to make a river. That's cool.
Yeah.
Who's this guy? Raphael says, glad to see you're finally awake. I found you in the forest 7 days ago. It seems like you're not from around here. It's a long time to sleep. Where am I?
That's a coma,
Yeah.
sir.
You're in the crafted realms. That sounds like a book I own. What book? Never mind. I'm not sure what's going on, but maybe going back to the forest where I found you could help? How do I go there? The forest is east from here. Here, have some fruit. You're still weak. Eat these fruits to replenish your hunger and energy. Thanks, I'm gonna check it out. To consume your fruit, press 1 on your keyboard. Eating will replenish your hunger and energy meters, which will be explained further later on. You can check your inventory at the bottom of the screen. Alright, we got some fruit here. So we got 24 out of 24 energy and 5 out of 5 hunger. We got 3 fruit, no food, and we can press keys 1 or 2 to eat either a fruit or a food. Who are these people? Oh, they don't want to talk to us yet. Villager, I may look like a merchant, but I'm not selling anything. Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, there's a bony dragon over there. Inspect. Tree chopping. You need an axe to chop trees in front of you. Talk to Raphael on how to craft an axe. Alright. Go back across the bridge. Trees blocking our way. Yeah, they grow extremely fast here. Just nonchalantly. Just no big deal. They just grow really super fast.
Yeah.
Anywho, go to my crafting table and I'll teach you how to craft. Just follow the yellow indicators. 1 second.
So, Alex, I'm going to tell you a quick thing because this pertains to my notes, and you're probably gonna laugh at me because So this is test like number 15 or something that I had done on the day, somewhere in that ballpark, and I wrote, "What a beautiful start! Great animations, terrific narrative." And I'm wrong about this. I retest, but I like to spit my brain onto the keypad here.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, this game was broken quite early, I wrote. Before I could reach the forest, 2 trees were meant to clear the way of they cannot be chopped down. I wrote this, nor attacked by the character. And then stopped, restarted the whole game. Why? Because I couldn't remember who Raphael was. And I kept trying to talk to the 2 new people in the bottom right. I don't know why. And then I'm like, well, I need an axe. And I went down to the workbench in the bottom left. And so I continue. I restart. And I wrote this. First run, I missed talking to Raphael. The second time, I had talked to him the first time. I didn't talk to him the second time to learn axe crafting, as he wasn't highlighted. So this is the only type of real note on the early part of the game that I would leave, is you don't necessarily have to, and I would probably recommend not use the yellow indicator there, but once I get the text for I need to chop these trees down, put like an aura around Raphael, of like a beam of light. This is Raphael. You're only going to need it the one time. And again, you don't probably even need it, but sometimes yellow paint helps when it's the very first thing you're doing on the very first quest, because all of the other game mechanics were very straightforward, and at no point did my brain play it like I was 5 years old. But this moment, I was like, where do I go? What do I do? You know? So PandaPops saying Joe decided to stop reading. And that's correct. On this particular game, again, I was playing simultaneously with Panda on this game, as we like to test together. We
Oh, we
don't
also get
tell each
XP.
other like our scores, but we do like to test together. And they they were like, well, how did you not read that? And ironically, we flipped roles because usually Panda's the one who's like spamming E and skipping the chat, and I'm the one who's reading and missing the mechanics, where we did it the opposite way this time. So it was good though. And then I'm not going to spoil the next part, but I've got more notes for later, when Alex gets a little bit further in.
Okay. So, I like that the clock didn't start before I got to this, but I don't like that the clock started while I'm in this, because I'm a slow reader. Panic! Gotta read all the instructions.
No, that's true. That's something that happens quite a lot in games that you want to try to avoid, is making sure all of your little pop-ups have cleared before you start any game timers that might negatively impact the player. You know, you've got an energy level on the left, you've got a hunger level on the left. So if those could go down as a result of the clock, then make sure the clock doesn't start until you've had all your tutorial pop up. Panda in the chat confirming what I'm talking about here. They say, I usually rely on Joe to read to me while I play. That's the real reason we play together, and I help him with parkour. Yeah, because, you know, I can't jump. Clearly. Based on the other game, you know what I mean? It's not until I've done it like 100 times and then, you know, then I feel satisfied. I'm like, I defeated Panda once. I'm basically the greatest of all time. That's it.
So I like that that they've got this middle mouse button to switch between different menus at the bottom. We can keep track of all of our different, like our levels and our resources. We've got player experience. We can shake trees. Like, I mean, this is a pretty robust set of mechanics going on here. We need to get home before the clock gets to 24 at midnight, which means we've got 14 minutes before we need to panic. Oh, I think we need a key, a bottle, and some crystals or something. The title says The Crafted Realms. I'm pretty sure I had this book sitting on my shelf. Is this responsible for everything? Let's see. It looks like it requires offering 3 items, a gem, a potion, and a key. Maybe this will do something. Raphael probably knows something. I gotta go back and check with him. Alright, I've already cleared this place of resources. We get to see the pages turn. Super cool. Let's make that pickaxe while we're here. Level 1 pickaxe is 5.
So if you're curious on how this is sort of happening, it seems to me, and Alex will correct me if I'm being dumb, but that blue layer there is a block layer. And there are assets that are under that block layer that get pushed up into the book, as the book itself has an animation where there's one page. So one layer of assets is going to go down as a result of a trigger, and then another layer is going to rise up into that position.
Fireflies are available from 15:30 until dark. Make sure to enter or re-enter the forest at night to catch them. Okay, good to know. Fill up our belly here. What was about the assets pushing into the blocks?
Yeah, the way that the animation is going, right? When that page turns, it looks to me like a layer, like this entire layer goes down into the verticality of this land, and then another layer is being pushed up.
Yeah, so the you can kind of tell that the little firefly looking starry things are not actually behind the book because there's not enough parallax on them.
Mm-hmm.
So that blue does appear to me to be solid blocks, and the book is casting a shadow on them. But because they've
Yep.
used this kind of cornflower blue along with the sparkles and along with the aurora, uh, it creates a lot of depth there. So even though there's not that parallax effect, you still get that sense of that being space out behind, which I think is nice.
Yep. And it does have that same thing where there you have a lot of flat textures in a good way. You've got nice dimension with your polys, um, but keeping them, you know, matte in texture, I guess is the best way I can describe it. Makes that background make sense and look good, and not feel like it is a flat plane of voxel.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, animation wise, it's also very good with these effects of like how we're chopping the tree, how we're mining assets.
We
It's
expect
all
nothing
quite
less
nice.
from Vox Machina. They have a track record of making really beautiful animations and artwork.
Yep. And
I will say,
Chinga on YouTube is mentioning that they like the axe animation in that because the characters are small, the axe is huge. It doesn't have to be in the player's hand, and it's still fine. It makes sense. I would say that's akin to like almost like a comic effect or like a children's cartoon. Wile E. Coyote out here with the giant axe cutting down the tree. It's nice.
what I like a lot is that I'm not feeling panicked about my resources. Like, it feels I haven't been playing long enough to know if this is like super unbalanced or super balanced or whatever. Like, I don't know what the end game is going to be like, but I do like that I can find lots of food. I've got 40 fruit right now, and I wasn't paying attention to my hunger, so I was actually starving just now.
Yeah.
But
Well, not only that, but you can use that to regenerate your energy along with your hunger.
yeah,
So, your time-based mechanics aren't so bad.
yeah,
It's not like it doesn't feel stressful. It just feels like a fun story you get to play. So you're right. That is a very good thing.
I haven't seen any other gems other than the one in the Sky Mountains. You can check it from there. Make sure to craft a level 2 pickaxe. You'll never know what you can mine in there. Okay, so we need a level 2 pickaxe. Potion. Check the merchants in the south. They probably have some secret stash in there. Key. Okay. I'm guessing I'm gonna need like fireflies for the potion. Oh wait, you can see the potion up there? I don't know if it like falls down or what. I may look like a merchant, but I'm not selling anything, but I think I need something from you. Oh, you need this potion? You know how it gets extremely dark at night, right? I could use the firefly hutch to light up our area. Could you craft one for me in exchange? You can catch fireflies from 15:30 until dark. Enter or re-enter the forest to get hold of them. Do we just grab them? We don't need like a net. Oh, there they are.
Yep.
Catch fireflies. Hey, we got fireflies. I didn't check how many we
Yeah, I
need.
think there was. I'm pretty sure there's one firefly that's right in the middle next to that tree where you have to cut the tree first before you can pick it up. Nope, not in your place. Maybe it was just where I was standing.
They might be randomized in position.
No, they're not.
Oh, okay.
I played a lot of this. You could, like, if you leave the zone and you come back in the zone, everything spawns in. And it's exactly the same spot every time.
See, I'm I'm a bit of a hoarder when it comes to resources in games.
Mhm.
If they can be mined, I will mine them. Doesn't matter if I actually
Yeah,
need any more of them or not.
well, I did the same thing on that one. I think I think you might remember the one with the really cool animation when you move from zone to zone on it,
Yep.
and the whole like cube
3 days
turn.
with the rose.
Yeah, this is. I think that's one of the differences between these two games, right? Because both of them had a great transition animation, but in 3 days with the rose, you every time you picked up a resource, you lost one energy, and there was no getting that back. And in this case, it's easy to regenerate your energy and proceed with the gameplay. It gives, there's an opportunity for the player to run out of energy here and possibly fail, but there's also an opportunity to continue and enjoy the story.
Mm-hmm. Apparently, I need crystal, and I don't know how to get crystal yet.
This is the firefly that I was thinking.
Mm.
You gotta chop.
Yeah, it was. I had to angle just right to get them.
Yeah. Good job, Twitch, with your auto mods.
Yeah, I don't know. Was that like an update to Twitch? Because I've only seen that the past couple days.
Yeah.
And it's nice.
Yeah,
I think they figured out that they always send the exact same message.
Yeah, this one was slightly varied from the last one, but nonetheless the same thing where it's like you've almost never engaged or have never engaged in the channel before, you're coming in and you're pasting a link right away. You're probably a robot. But anyway, yeah, the
Dawn of the Second
so
Day.
now you've just passed something else that I had a note for, so I'm gonna cover this as well. If you're still outside at night and the hour 2400 comes through and you haven't come back to town, you may die. Now, I wrote this but didn't take it into a great deal of account, but it's something to look into. Because I didn't like QA level test, you know what I mean? Like I didn't like try to break it intentionally. But I wrote down, I appeared to die a few hours before 2400 with good food reserves, good hunger reserves, and energy. That's sort of almost like in the middle of my paragraph, but because you passed the 2400 hour mark, I noted that. So I don't know if that trigger is happening in perfect time with 2400, or maybe I am just a little dense and wasn't paying attention to my hunger or something because I was getting too excited chopping down trees. But if your food reserves are low, or your hunger reserves are low, or your energy reserves are low, maybe it makes sense to make an audible chime to be like, warning, this just hit 2 out of 10 for your hunger or something like that, so that I couldn't possibly miss it, and then once again teach them that with one of those like non-narrative pop-ups that says like, hey, you will get an audible cue when it reaches these levels or something, and like make that sound go off. Yeah, look at that juicy fruit-based steak.
Oh, it ate it!
Did it? Oh no!
Yeah, I let it get too close.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
Luckily, you have so much fruit.
It so it doesn't actually have to follow you. It just has to be in proximity of the fruit bar to like move along to where it's supposed to.
But without touching the fruit bar.
All right. Okay. So I think we need to go to these mountains to get some crystal.
Yeah.
Whoa. Jump spacebar to land on flat surfaces. Jump on an empty space to call forth a dragon.
Oh man, I got a pile of these. Deny.
Did I misunderstand? I thought I was supposed to. Oh.
No, you're
So we
doing
got it.
fine. Yeah,
You got it. The dismount takes a little finesse.
yeah, and that's something that I noted as well. Let me see. Dismounting the dragon had some difficulties. Was my point. I didn't want to mention that you could ride a dragon before you got here.
I mean, I edited the video. I saw that we would ride the dragon, but I didn't really like understand. Like I didn't watch it too intensely to figure out exactly how it was working. But I like the presentation of us being like in the sky above everything.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Yeah. And then the last notes that I had, I said, regardless, this is quite good. Love the dynamics of the story being told as we transition from area to area. I put story in quotes because we're turning the page literally to go from space to space. It just, and this should later be upgraded to a full experience from your team. So I would fully recommend this team, Vox Machina or Vox Machina, as you say. I don't know which way they pronounce it, but keep this as a personal template for you. A story unfolds out of a book. You only have to change like half of, change the characters, change the dynamics, whatever. Those layers that pop up. Because the core gameplay here, you could tell story after story after story with this, vibe to it, and people would eat it up for ages. This is like
many chapters to keep with the book metaphor.
This your Final Fantasy. I'm telling you, this is.
Oh, I need one more crystal.
So nice.
Yeah, I could definitely see myself playing a lot of different stories in this construct. I'm getting extra crystal just in case I need it. Alex is so pleased with the metaphor. I love educational metaphors. I like it when all the things can have a spot in the metaphor, and you can let it outlive its welcome. Other people get annoyed with it, and I'm like, not. There's more here. We can go deeper.
He was so busy, chat, wondering if he could. He didn't stop to think.
All right, now we can make our Firefly hutch. Well, that's much better than I expected. We could really use someone like you in our village. Everyone will love you. I got a key item. Do we take it back to the book? Or do we have to wait until we have all the other things? Oh, it already shows up there. Cool. We didn't even have to do anything.
It's funny how we played through this very much the same, except that you want to pick every like orange like berry or whatever, whereas I wanted to take every resource every time.
I think like, the reason I stopped is because I've already maxed out my levels.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I actually need the resources for anything else.
I don't think you do. I really
the light gear. I've got enough fireflies, and I've got plenty of wood. I got the light gear. So I've already crafted all the things. So like
Yep.
normally I
Yeah.
would be chopping all the wood and mining all the rocks and mining all the
Hmm.
crystal. Oh, we've already got the light effect just follows us. Cool. So typically, yes, I'd be all over that. But I can see that I've already got more resources than I actually need for, I think, the rest of the
Hmm.
game. So I think I'll be okay. Although I don't know. I already got the stuff from the mountain. Where am I supposed to go next?
Yeah. You have an indicator on this guy.
We can talk to what's his name? Kevin. Raphael.
Kevin.
So we
They're
got the
basically the
potion.
same.
Yeah.
Basically the
I
same
can
name.
remember his name.
Raphael, Kevin. You know.
um, I already mined all the crystal in there. I didn't see any gems. Maybe it's a random drop. And he doesn't know about the key.
I think the gems were in the dark gray rock that you didn't mine. I can't remember.
Oh, I
Like
tried
you do
clicking
it
on
on the
them, but
back of the dragon.
oh, you
Just
can do
make
it.
sure that you don't.
I didn't realize I could mine this.
Yeah, there we go.
What? Did I
Just
collapse?
make sure you don't.
Oh
hit
no, the
midnight.
clock!
Yep.
Make sure I
It
don't
wasn't
do
the
that.
The clock said 1750. So I'll just. That must be where I also had that same problem, but couldn't figure out why.
Wait, I just slept, but it's still night out.
Yeah.
I think the timing got a little goofy. All right. Hey, the strange rock came. Oh, interesting. So yeah, I think you're right with it pulling everything underground and it coming back up because the strange rock had the exact same health that it did before.
It's your energy level that went down. You reached 0 when you mined the strange rock.
I was mining too fast. See, I was eating while I was mining, but I think I depleted my energy faster than my lack of hunger could handle.
Yeah.
So that is interesting. I mean I like that.
Like you didn't die, you just passed out.
Yeah, I was exhausted. I was a little tuckered out because I wasn't paying attention
if when
to
your
my
energy
energy
hits 0 and you respawn, it would be nice if there was like a trigger that said you wake up after passing out from exhaustion or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's just that I didn't realize that the strange rock had more hits needed than I had energy. Hey, there we go.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I didn't notice that either when I was doing the first time.
But what I do like is because it's on the number keys, I can actually just spam these at the same time. And it's not like it's the total opposite of like the issue that you were having where you have to go into your inventory and consume stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's seamless. It's actually like almost like it's too fast. I'm able to just consume food kind of like you can scoff down cheese in Skyrim with a hotkey.
Yeah. Well, it's also an interesting note. Like, if I'm thinking about this from the QA level, Strange Rock is the only one that consumes energy when you do it.
The other ones do too, but not at a rate where it actually does a full energy. Or either that, or it was just the timer that did the energy.
No, because they take one pickaxe swing. The pickaxe does like 3 or 4 animations. It requires 1 energy per asset that you mine, apparently. But the strange rocks require 50 energy per asset you mine.
So I think the idea there is that we have to level up our character through doing actions so that way we have more energy and we've spent more time to have more food. So, like, mining the strange rock is to get an end goal item. So it is supposed
Yeah.
to be more challenging.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. But like,
I'm
like
out of I'm out of
just
berries.
thinking like wrapping it that into that narrative, or have the character emote that there seems to be a strange aura coming off of the rock or whatever when you mine it for the first time, and or just have the character go ow when you hit kink ow, text bubble pops up, something like that, so that you can see it in the center of the screen instead
10.
of it just being on the UI element on the left.
My goodness, 10 meals? That's a lot of meals. That's uh wait. Oh, wait, don't craft it. We get it from her.
Alex, question comes in over on
What's that?
youtube.com from Kachinga. Says,
Mm-hmm.
y'all mentioned using swimming to fly. I'm going to make a water bridge and swim it as a fly mechanic. How do I make my water swimmable in the Game Maker?
So if you are making a new game, I think by default the water swimming is turned on. But if you click on the player button, there's across the top row, there's a few buttons. One says, I think, objectives. The other one says player, or I might say control. So in there, there's a player menu, and you'll see a whole big long list of stats related to the character. And when we're done in here, we can, when we're done with this game, I can pull it up on screen to show you where it is. But all the stats, if you're using the default avatar, the stats are grayed out. You can't select them. But if you're using a custom avatar, a custom asset as your player character, then some of them are on like sliders. You can adjust the timing, like your max speed and
Here we go.
your crawl speed
Swimming
and stuff like
enabled.
that. Swimming
I see
enabled,
they
found
found
it. Okay,
swimming
all right. Down at the bottom of that list, there's a few options. You can turn on swimming. If swimming is on, you can turn on oxygen use. You can turn on fall damage, and you can turn on PvE, which is player versus everything, which allows for players to use their weapons and attack things in a multiplayer game. And we talked about that on the last stream. That's a newer feature in 0.10, which is super cool. It means you can basically have WoW raids. You can have a whole bunch of players attacking a boss all at the same time, and it'll synchronize the health for the boss. You can't have NPCs that are running around with multiplayer health on. You might be able to make the smaller mobs like single player quests in a multiplayer space. So like you have to go and fight that single player, a whole bunch of like low level single player enemies and level up your character, and then you can all go and fight the big boss. Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right. So 1 fruit and 4 fireflies. So we need 40 fireflies and 10 fruit. All right. We should probably sleep. Oh wait, no, we need it to be nighttime.
Don't sleep.
Yeah, we need it to be nighttime. I was looking at like how dark it was. It's not even the 15th hour yet.
Yeah.
So we can just gather a bunch of fruit while we're at it. What I think is interesting is the flying. I believe what they did is the dragon is underneath the blue blocks here as part of our character. See, like we can't even see our character because their pivot position is so like strangely aligned to everything. So we jump in the water, and part of their swim animation is the dragon coming up above with another copy of the player character. It's we saw a similar setup like this in the Avenged Sevenfold game jam with I believe it was the experience that won, where it was like a hide and go seek kind of game, where people could hide as, or more like prop hunt. You could use crouch, crawl, or sit to turn yourself into different objects that were um, already in the space.
Yeah, that
So
one was good.
and we could see if you went right to the corner of the map, you could see way down at the bottom of the map were the assets that would pop up. The animation was set to just have it go whoop and cover your character whenever you did the pose that was for whatever you were trying to hide yourself as. So I think a similar mechanic was used here for the flying. It's pretty cool. Hey, there's our fireflies. We need 40 of them. That's a lot of fireflies. It looks like we collect 2 at a time. Clock is at 1600. There it is. Yeah. That one, it just, the interaction with it is just slightly misaligned with that tree. Am I going to have to ask her for the food 10 times? What's that waypoint for? Oh, that's actually probably the merchant underground. So the visibility on her quest marker is just like a little bit too long reaching. Oh, there's a firefly.
Yep.
That's the last one we need. Ha. We got 41 fireflies and we've got 44 fruit.
Chinga having a laugh saying Superman doesn't sound like he jumped in a pool when he takes out.
Yeah, so unfortunately we can't change the default avatar sound effects right now, but you could try to drown them out with other sounds if you wanted. There are a lot of sound effects, and you could have a trigger on the surface of the water, so when you pass through, it'd be a trigger volume, so just over the entire surface of the water. When you jump into it, you could have it play a sound effect like a whoosh sound or something that would disguise the watery sound. Okay, we can buy 5 at a time. Nice.
I didn't catch that, but I like it.
What? That you can buy 5 at a
Drown
time?
them out. Drown out the water sound. Pretty good.
You are a lifesaver. Are you sure you want to go home? We'd love to have you here. I mean, wasn't he sad about, like, not having friends anymore or something at the start? Maybe we do want to stay here. The book shines brightly. Well done, you found the key items. Have you not enjoyed your time here? Why did you put me here? As you struck your hammer, your memories of youthful days filled my webbed and dusty pages, a testament to your journey and growth. Your desire to relive those moments has once again opened this book. Have you noticed how you've returned to your younger self? It's a wonderful feeling, isn't it? Epilogue. To show my gratitude, I'll let your inner desire choose how you wish to continue. Let this be our final parting. Okay, so we have some interesting choices here. So let me think. I want to start anew and embrace the magic of this new life. Does that mean I can just keep on mining resources? I will return to my real world, even if no one is waiting. I don't... Are there 2 different endings?
I actually don't know the answer to the question.
Which one did you pick? I'll do the other one.
The return to my real world.
Okay, I'll do the start anew and see what happens. Very well, you've made your choice. Goodbye, and may you live your life as you hope. It's a blank book. Oh. The book continues to turn its pages as you unfold your newfound journey chapter by chapter. Thank you for playing. Huh. What happened when you clicked going back?
I'm pretty sure that's the same exit screen.
Okay. All right.
But
so it's kind of the same ending, but a different perspective on it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that was actually featured in the gallery right now. I don't know if this is on the map or not. But if you would like to play this, you just have to download Game Maker 0.10, and it's right here in the featured section of the gallery. Nice and easy to find. You can also see some other Game Jam competitors and winners even in the feature section here. I know we've played Ruby and Emerald on stream before. Midnight Escape. I don't remember which one this is. I don't know if we've played that one on stream or not. Yeah, so lots of cool games on there. All right, so let's close up our giveaway form. We are no longer accepting responses on it. Let's see who are. Here's our. Alright, we get a random number generator up here. You know what? I said 5. We only had 9 people sign up for the giveaway. So a lot of viewers already have the hat. So that's probably why they didn't sign up. I'm just gonna say everybody who filled out this form today is gonna get a hat, as long as they don't already have one. So I'm not gonna check right now. I'm gonna check after we end the stream because it just takes some extra time. So I'll say the names of who's getting the hats, assuming that they don't already have one. And if you already have it, then I'm not giving you another one because I didn't say. I said I was gonna not do that. But all 9 of these, if you don't have hats already, you're gonna get one. So Ian the IT guy, Mosquita, Quado RRRRR, Mad Money 1978, Drama Hot, Raven Rich, Frost E. It's like Frost 3 YY, Beasties 123 2003, and Shooter 6191, all on Twitch except for Mad Money, who's on YouTube. I will all be sending you Wizzy the Orange's hat, again assuming that you don't already have one. Those will be to you in the next 15 minutes or so. We are gonna take. Gosh, I said 2 hours, right? It's almost 6. You're 3 hours behind me, so it's almost 3 p.m. for you.
Almost 3.
It's almost 3. So 2 hours will bring us to 5. You said you need to be done by 7.
By 7.
It'll still work. The plan will still work. It's just offset. All right. So Joe and I are going to take a 2-hour break. We are going to be back at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Oh, that's only an hour and 15 minutes. We'll say 7:30 Eastern time. So in an hour and 45 minutes. Wait, my math is off. Let me just 7:30. Okay. Wait, that is an hour and 45 minutes. Yeah, my math was right. I second guessed myself.
Yeah. No. Yes. You're right.
Yeah.
Yes. Hour and 45. You're right. I'm doing the same thing where my brain is like, what is time?
7:30 Eastern time. 7:30 Eastern time. Whatever that is for you. That's when we'll be back here for the last mage raid that I'm doing. We're gonna be playing your games in the Builders Challenge 2. Hopefully you will be wearing your Wizzy hats because we're gonna take the last screenshots that we're gonna do for mage raids to get you points for winning cool stuff that I'm just gonna send to you because I wanna. All right,
Cool.
thank you, Joe. We'll see you back in a bit. I'm gonna try to raid somebody, and we'll be back in a little while.